subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
A man named Heizo. He told me to wait here for a long time, and if there are people dressed like him, he will take you away. If there are no people, forget it. Heizo. He had already brought 10 Kuruta tribesmen to stay in the town a few days ago. When the Kuruta tribe was attacked, the tribe leader sent a signal immediately. Heizo took his people away directly. Before leaving, Heizo made such preparations, which helped Piro a lot. Everyone upload quickly. Piro stood at the port and looked at the forest in the town. Rocky, what are you doing? Come on. After everyone got on the boat, Rocky jumped out of the forest and ran towards this side at a very fast speed. Soon, Piro shouted Rocky and asked the captain to prepare to sail. When Rocky got on the boat, Piro looked at the blood on Rocky's body. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, he understood what Rocky did. Fortunately, you are here, otherwise we would probably die. Piro said. Rocky smiled and said, "It's nothing, those guys are pretty weak." When the boat slowly sailed away, Rocky suddenly saw a car coming on the muddy road leading to the town. In such a remote place, you can still drive, and it looks quite luxurious. The person who got off the car made Rocky's eyes shrink slightly. Fortunately, if we had delayed a little longer, we might not have been able to escape. The Phantom Troop's people could have caught up with us. The boat has already set out to sea. Even if the Phantom Troop wanted to catch up, they couldn't. Moreover, the Phantom Troop didn't know that the people of the Kuruta tribe had escaped by boat. Hey, right? Two little ghosts. Where is your destination? You were in a hurry to urge me to start the boat. Now, can you tell me where to go? After hearing this, Pyro and Rocky looked at each other. Both of them were confused. Chapter 41. Signs of a coming storm. Didn't the person who asked you to wait for us here tell you where to take us? Pyro asked the other party, but the captain took a sip of the beer he was carrying and said with a little drunkenness, "Of course not. That guy gave me money to wait for you. As for where to send you, he didn't say. Don't you know where to go?" Pyro understood immediately after hearing this. Heizo was worried that the Kuruta people behind him would be caught and then give out the Kuruta people who escaped in advance. So he made such an arrangement. But the problem is that now they don't even know where Heizo is. What should they do? Although there are still nearly 20 people in this small group of Kuruta people, it is estimated that only Pyro and Rocky are proficient in the outside world language. Although the other Kuruta people were a little worried when they saw Pyro's appearance, they didn't dare to ask casually. The captain felt that this group of people seemed to be stupid, and only the two half-grown kids were normal people. So he went directly to talk to Rocky and Pyro. When Pyro was at a loss, Rocky suddenly stood up. "Then let's start the boat. As for where to go, just follow the direction I point to." Rocky had noticed two members of the Phantom Troop who got off the car and were checking the town. These two people were Nobunaga and Franklin. If they were discovered by the two of them, it would be difficult to escape. Basically, there would be no way to escape at that time. That's why Rocky asked the captain to start the boat immediately. "Okay, you paid the money and you have the final say. Little guys, go full speed." The sailors on the boat started to get busy, and Rocky pointed in a direction casually, and the captain looked at the direction Rocky pointed. "Are you sure?" At this time, Rocky had noticed that because the boat suddenly went full speed, Nobunaga and Franklin, who were walking on the street, had already noticed this side. "Yes, that's right. Drive as fast as you can." Hearing this, the captain threw the bottle in his hand and said, "Since I have taken your money, even the devil can't stop me. Ha ha. Get out of the way, Gerald. Let me steer the ship myself this time." The captain, who seemed unreliable, walked directly to the rudder. At this time, Rocky was still staring at the shore. However, looking at Nobunaga and Franklin rushing towards the port, Rocky's heart was already in his throat. Although they had already driven a distance, they didn't know whether these two guys would catch up. Waited for nearly half a minute. The two stood at the edge of the port and looked at the ship that had left. Nobunaga didn't get angry but laughed. These guys really got away. Hearing this, Franklin didn't understand. What was this guy happy about? "Nobunaga, you don't seem to want to catch up with those guys." Nobunaga smiled. Of course, that's the person Yuvigin specifically asked for. Let Yuvigin deal with it himself. Speaking of Yuvigin, Nobunaga wanted to laugh. When he dug Yuvigin out of the collapsed passage, he saw that Yuvigin's face was covered with blood. Although he was not seriously injured, Yuvigin felt very aggrieved and even instantly exploded. This guy wanted to rush out and continue to chase Rocky, but was stopped by Krallo. Inexplicably, Krallo felt that even if he let Yuvigin go out, he would not be able to catch up with the enemy, and might even be killed by the enemy. Although he didn't understand what this feeling was, it made Krallo feel that it was likely to happen. So he stopped Yuvigin and gave the task of chasing to Nobunaga and Franklin. And at this moment, Rocky, who was sitting on the boat, was breathing lightly. "Rocky, what should we do next?" Hearing the voice of Pyro beside him, Rocky rubbed his head. This was the most troublesome thing. More than half of the Kuruta tribe was destroyed, and it is not easy for the remaining people to settle down properly. However, Rocky suddenly thought of something. If we could get a pair of contact lenses for all these tribesmen, then there should be no problem. In the deep mountains and old forests, the people of the Kuruta tribe don't know that there are contact lenses in this world. If they're given a pair of contact lenses, then it doesn't seem to be a big problem even if they live in the outside world. Anyway, let's go to the next place first. After we get there, I will find a way to get some things and let all the tribesmen wear them. In this way, our eyes will not be discovered, and then it will not be a problem to live with people from the outside world. Hearing this, Pyro smiled. "Really? Really?" Rocky smiled, "But I'm very tired now. Let me sleep first." After continuous battles, they were all life and death battles. Although Rocky's mental energy was basically restored, but there was no way to recover from mental fatigue. Rocky hugged his legs and fell asleep at a random place on the deck. I don't know how long I slept, but suddenly a violent shaking made Rocky wake up suddenly. "Get up." Looking at the vast sea around, Rocky frowned. "Haven't we arrived yet?" The crew on the ship were talking excitedly. At this time, Pyro suddenly ran over. "Rocky, it's not good. What's wrong? Why is it bad again? Haven't we escaped from the hands of Phantom Troop? Could it be? Could it be that the people of Phantom Troop came to the door again?" Rocky was wondering about this vast sea. Could it be that the other party also had a ship and caught up? The place you pointed at casually before is a place called the Devil's Sea. There are countless ships entering there every year, but there has never been a ship coming out. Hearing this, Rocky was stunned. Then let the captain turn around. Rocky didn't care whether this was a legend or something else. It didn't matter. The important thing was that there was no way to take risks now. There was no need for this. After all, there was still a large group of Kuruta people. Safety was the most important thing. However, Pyro had an ugly expression on his face. "I said it, but the captain said, once the destination is decided, it cannot be changed. This ship never looks back." Rocky was speechless when he heard this. It can be like this. "Haha, we have wanted to challenge the Devil's Sea for so many years. Thanks to you, we finally have the opportunity to go to that sea." "What Devil's Sea? We can definitely conquer it. Come on, brothers." The sailors seemed very excited, and each of them seemed to be mentally unstable. And Rocky looked in the direction of the rudder, and the captain looked at the sky excitedly, muttering in his mouth, it's coming, it's coming soon." Crack! Bang! There was an amazing thunder in the sky. The originally clear sky began to darken immediately. The wind became stronger. This is a sign of the coming storm. Chapter 42. Navigating the stormy sea, feeling the strong, fishy smell coming from the sea breeze. This is the crazy rolling of the sea water, causing the water in the deep sea to be rolled out of the water. Then it merges into the wind and blows over. And such a sea breeze means there is a storm ahead. Rocky said. The crew members who were pulling the sails tightly nodded and smiled. I didn't expect this kid to know a little about the ocean. Not bad. A big storm is coming soon. You can get ready. Don't be thrown out of the boat, or we won't salvage you. Hearing this, Rocky turned to look at Pyro. Hurry up and let the tribesmen hide in the cabin. Pyro nodded and took the tribesmen who were still resting on the deck to hide in the cabin quickly. After settling the tribesmen, Pyro returned to the plywood, and Rocky had already come to the rudder. Captain, turn around. We are not going to the Devil's Sea. Hearing this, the captain turned his head and looked at Rocky, showing a row of teeth. Oh, is that so? Little boss, don't you want to enter the Devil's Sea to avoid the enemies chasing us? Hearing this, Rocky's face changed slightly. What do you mean by avoiding the enemy? We don't have any enemies to avoid. Little ghost, I've been a captain for more than 30 years. I can tell who is on the ship at a glance. Don't think I don't know. It's just that this kind of thing has nothing to do with me. My ship can do it as long as you pay me. The captain raised his hand and pointed to the distance. You can only escape in this direction. If you change your route to other directions, if the other party has a phone, then there are several routes in the nearby waters, and the other party can easily grasp them. You can't escape if you go to other places. Rocky's expression was slightly stunned. After pondering for a moment, Rocky raised his head and looked at the captain again. Even so, it's not the time to take risks. The captain smiled. You do value your people, but it's a pity that we have entered this sea area. It's probably as difficult to leave as it is to get through. Rocky was stunned for a moment. Why don't you just turn around? Look around, kid. What do you think my crew are busy with? Rocky looked in the direction of the crew. These crew members are folding the sails? Just now, I saw them pulling the sails frantically and thought they were fixing the sails or something. Why are you folding the sails? When Rocky said this, he suddenly found something wrong. His extremely strong dynamic vision made Rocky clearly feel that the ship was accelerating. The sails have been folded, but the ship is still accelerating. If it is a modern ship, it's fine. The old wooden sailboat doesn't have electric oars. Rush to the side of the ship and look at the sea. This is Rocky, with his eyes wide open, can clearly see that the water on the sea is flowing rapidly in a certain direction. This is a special undercurrent that goes to the Devil's Sea. You are very lucky. You found it directly today. In the past, ships that wanted to go to the Devil's Sea might not be found even after 3 or 4 days of searching. Rocky felt like vomiting blood after hearing this. Is this considered good luck? In a sense, it is considered luck. But Rocky doesn't really want this kind of luck at the moment. Hold the 2 little devils firmly, and then we will really start to accelerate. Squeak, squeak. The boat was squeezed and made a squeaking sound because of the water flow. The center of gravity under his feet suddenly shifted, and the boat suddenly accelerated. Rocky grabbed the handrail on the side of the boat. Looking up at the front, the wind was getting stronger and stronger. It blew in his ears, making him almost unable to hear other sounds. He turned his head and looked at the captain at the helm. It was not easy to escape from the hands of Phantom Troop, and rescued some members of the Kuruta tribe, successfully saving the Kuruta tribe from the disaster of extermination. Now, but encountered this kind of thing again, why does it feel like they want to make the Kuruta tribe all extinct? Is this the plot kill? Rocky frowned and now felt helpless. In a vast ocean, even the top, none has no place to use. Unless the ability is related to water. Rocky looked at the sea, and a picture flashed in his mind. One of the 6 gods, the water god Leviathan, a huge and very strange-looking creature called the water god, can be summoned. The summoned water god can exert terrifying power to devastate the enemy. At the same time, as a water god, controlling the water flow is naturally his own ability. Rocky glanced at the 2 swords floating around his body. He even developed this power. If he could reproduce the power of the 6 gods in this world in the form of none, how powerful would he be? When Rocky couldn't help thinking, a wave suddenly hit the ship. The whole ship made a sound of being overwhelmed. At this time, Rocky also came back to his senses. Looking at Pyro, who was almost knocked to the ground by the waves while holding the guardrail. Grabbing Pyro's arm, he asked him to hold the guardrail tightly. Be careful. Don't fall. Pyro nodded and asked Rocky, Rocky, do you think we die in the sea? Rocky didn't know how to answer this question because he didn't know what would happen. The hunter world has all kinds of incredible things. Rocky didn't know whether the so-called Devil's Sea was a natural weather phenomenon or the effect of some mysterious force. Now we can only leave it to fate. 2 little ghosts. Get ready, it's coming again. The captain's voice sounded, and Rocky looked up immediately. A huge wave was sweeping towards the direction of the ship. Looking at the wave that was almost 3 or 4 stories high, Rocky was speechless. Can this broken ship withstand such waves? However, the result surprised Rocky. This seemingly shabby wooden boat actually held up, but the sea surface became more and more turbulent. The terrifying waves came one after another, becoming more and more dangerous. Time passed by little. In just half an hour, the ship was carried by the current and rushed directly into the core area of the sea. At this time, the captain suddenly shouted excitedly, "Everyone get ready. Life or death depends on this." Rocky was about to ask when he heard this, but suddenly the ship rose. To be precise, under the control of the captain, their ship drove onto a huge wave that was surging. In the blink of an eye, it had risen to a height of 100 meters, and on the opposite side, a wave of spray also swept over. The height was even much higher than theirs. Here it comes. As long as you jump over, you can enter the devil's realm that no one has ever set foot on. Are you ready, guys? A group of crew members were cheering excitedly. Rocky's mouth twitched slightly. Jump over? The ship is not an airplane. It can't fly. Is this guy looking for death? Rocky gritted his teeth and opened his information board. I had planned to settle down with the Kuruta people and then slowly study it. But I'm afraid it's not possible now. Chapter 43, An Unexpected Encounter. Rocky opened his information bar. Host, Rocky race, human. Kuruta, none talent. Top, physical potential. Intermediate, bloodline ability. Low-level red eyes. Physical condition, good. Currently has modification permission. Can modify. Opening the information bar is naturally for modification, and Rocky originally planned to keep the modification permission until he went to a place and settled down. Then he would slowly study it, but now he is afraid that it will not work. His eyes were directly locked on the information bar of physical potential. Because of the danger he was facing now, Rocky felt that the only thing that could increase his chance of survival was physical potential. Rocky didn't think about it and silently modified it in his mind. And this time, Rocky directly modified the text he had always wanted to try. Physical potential, immortal, unlimited potential. When Rocky finished filling in the text and wanted to confirm, a new window appeared. Hint: the current information column has not yet fully acquired information and cannot be modified in depth. Modification failed. Please try again. Seeing this prompt, Rocky was stunned for a moment, and then a light flashed in his eyes. The prompt is that deep modification cannot be performed, and all information has not yet been fully acquired at this stage. So, does it mean that if you can fully acquire the information about your physique and potential, you can make deeper modifications? Rocky moved his eyes to the information column of bloodline ability and looked at the text displayed behind the bloodline information column. Low-level fiery red eye. It only showed a low level before, and now it is the fiery red eye of the second level, which means that more information has been acquired in this information column. So this column can be further modified. Rocky's eyes turned slightly. These thoughts only flashed through his mind, even though Rocky was very eager to try now. But the most critical issue at the moment is to survive first. As long as you can survive, there will be plenty of opportunities later. And now, physical potential, top, modification completed. Modification permission acquisition countdown. 39 days 23 hours 59 minutes 59 seconds. After the physical condition is modified to the top level, it will take a full 40 days for the next modification. Fortunately, it is not too long. Rocky closed the information bar. He opened his eyes the next second and felt that his body suddenly seemed to be more powerful. And he could clearly feel that it seemed to be floating more violently. Ki increased. The top physical potential, even if Rocky did nothing, actually made Rocky start to increase his ki. Rocky closed his eyes and silently sensed the condition of his body. It seemed that he could burst out more ki, and his body could withstand a large amount of bursts, and the ki would recover quickly in a very short time. Of course, I haven't tested it, so I don't know if Rocky's premonition is accurate, but it shouldn't be wrong. Clenching his fist, Rocky felt that his strength had also increased a lot. Is the effect of the change in physical condition so obvious? While Rocky was thinking, there was a sudden shake, and the next second the sea water submerged Rocky. Coming out of the sea, Rocky wiped the water off his face and looked at Piero, who was breathing heavily. Are you okay? Piero nodded and grabbed Rocky's arm. I'm fine, thank you. Hold on to me, or I might fall into the sea. Put Piero on the edge of the guardrail and let him hold the guardrail. At that moment, just now, Rocky's reaction was also very quick. Although he was younger than Piero, the power that burst out at that moment made Piero look at his shoulder, directly pinched by Rocky Purple. This made Piero feel very painful when he moved his arm. It's coming, suddenly accompanied by the captain's roar. Rocky looked towards the bow. The huge waves have lifted the entire ship to a height of 100 meters, and at this moment the waves are like a hillside. Their ship has reached the top of the hill and will soon rush out. The captain glanced at Rocky and said, "Little boy, how spectacular! No matter what the result is, I will not regret taking such an adventure. Although I did not pass the hunter trial, I am determined to become the best ocean hunter." Crack! The ship flew directly, and Rocky's body gradually floated up in the air, holding the guardrail on the side of the ship tightly. Rocky also pulled Pyro to prevent him from being thrown off. In the second of flying in the air, Rocky's brain was instantly empty. Hunter! Boom! The ship plunged into the huge waves on the opposite side, and the height difference was only about 1 meter, so it could jump directly from this wave to the wave on the opposite side. The sea water swept in, and the impact brought by the sea water made Rocky feel that his eyeballs were about to be dug out by the sea water. I closed my eyes. He held onto the guardrail with both hands while holding onto Piero tightly. Swish, the sound of surging water continued to sound, and along with the thunder in the sky, the storm officially arrived. After an unknown amount of time in the water, the boat broke through the surface of the water and sailed straight toward the depths of the storm, accompanied by the gentle beating of the waves, on a beach at an unknown location. Rocky opened his eyes and looked at Piero lying on his side. He got up and woke Piero up. There was no time to check Piero's condition. Rocky stood on the beach with a dilapidated boat behind him, and the others were also washed onto the beach by the sea water one after another. Rocky looked at these people. Some of them were crew members, and the other part were people from the Kuruta tribe. It seemed that the people from the Kuruta tribe were in trouble, but they had drunk too much sea water and had not woken up yet. Not a single person was missing. This was a blessing in disguise, and it was not in vain. Pyro, where is this? I don't know. Wake up all the tribesmen first. While Rocky was talking, he suddenly stopped. He turned around quickly. He pulled Pyro behind him. Rocky looked up at the boat. A man was standing on the broken ship in the sun, gently stroking the mast that was broken by the sea. Because it was backlit, Rocky couldn't see the other person's appearance clearly, but could only see the outline of his body. A very strong man. To be able to break through the storm with such a ship, these sailors and captains are probably the world's top level. The other party suddenly spoke. Rocky frowned, and the cold sweat on his forehead couldn't stop coming out. Instinct. Instinct told Rocky that the man in front of him was strong. Very strong. Even the oppression was more terrifying than facing Phantom Troop. Your perception seems to be very strong, kid. The other party suddenly said, turning his head to look at Rocky. Well, it looks like you're pretty good. It's amazing to have such a level at this age. In that case, whether you did it intentionally or not, you can't stay here. The other party took something out of his trouser pocket and pointed it at Rocky. Seeing the other party take out something, Rocky instinctively grabbed Pyro. In case the other party launched an attack, he could take Pyro and dodge at the first time. And the next second, Rocky heard a sentence that stunned him. Use expel. Rocky's eyes shrank rapidly, and a sudden air enveloped him and even Pyro. Then the two rushed into the sky. At this moment, Rocky came back to his senses. Is this Greed Island? Chapter 44. Rocky lost his people. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The rapid sound of breaking wind kept echoing in Rocky's ears. At this moment, Rocky had already reacted. He didn't expect that the so-called Devil's Sea was actually the natural weather outside the Greedy Island. He didn't expect that he could enter the Greedy Island unexpectedly. But the problem is, now, Rocky has been expelled. What's more terrible is, what about the other people of the Kuruta tribe? Have they also been expelled? Rocky thought about it, and looked at Pyro on the side. At this moment, Pyro looked around in horror. Although he was wrapped in air, he would not be in any danger, but flying rapidly in the sky. Such an experience is already completely stimulating to the extreme for ordinary people. Even when Rocky called him, he didn't react at all. He just looked around with a terrified look. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The speed of flight was very fast, and this speed made Rocky feel very incredible. Is this something that a human can do? Relying solely on the power of air, a person can fly at such a fast speed, and it acts on others, not on himself. Based on Rocky's current experience with ki, he is probably far from being able to release this level of ki now. Unless he continues to improve his strength, at least 10 times stronger than now, then he can probably release the same level of ki. But how long will it take to improve 10 times? The gap is too big. In the 10 minutes that Rocky was thinking, soon the land appeared in Rocky's eyes, and as the land got closer and closer, the flying posture began to change into a diving posture. Not good. Landing at this speed, not good. Crack, accompanied by a violent roar. A thick smoke rose directly from the ground. A pit with a diameter of about 2 meters appeared on the ground, and Rocky stood in the middle in a half-squatting posture, holding Pyro. His face was very gloomy. If he hadn't adjusted his posture in time and burst out ki to protect himself, the impact force alone would have been enough to kill him. This is different from the anime. Gon and Killua's landings always seemed very easy. There was no such terrible impact force. Did that guy do it on purpose? This time Rocky was not wrong. It was indeed intentional. After all, when the ability to expel outsiders was set, it was considered that the people to be expelled would basically only be nin masters. Otherwise, it would be impossible to think of using this method to go to Greed Island. So there is no need to consider the force of landing. This kind of forced landing is also a little color for the opponent. Let these people not try again. Putting Pyro down, Rocky looked up at the sky. Where are the other Kuruta people? Have they been expelled? If they were expelled, it would be okay. Rocky can find a way to catch them here. There are actually not many thoughts left at the moment of landing. If Rocky catches them hard, he can still do it. But after waiting for a few minutes, Rocky still didn't see any Kuruta people being expelled here. Damn it, where are the people? Rocky's face darkened. Could it be that the expulsion was random, and his people were randomly expelled to other places? If that was the case, then Rocky would go crazy. It was not easy to save some of the Kuruta people, but even the chief grandfather died for it. If even these tribesmen who have finally survived cannot continue to guarantee their safety, doesn't it mean that the chief's death is in vain? Rocky's eyes turned red. At this time, Pyro approached cautiously. He seemed to feel that Rocky's mood was not right. Rocky, what's wrong with you? After Pyro finished speaking, Rocky suddenly turned his head and looked at Pyro. The pair of red eyes made Pyro tremble slightly. He didn't dare to look at Rocky at all. At this moment, Rocky's eyes were too terrifying. Damn Leja, tribesman, if anything happens, I won't let you go. If Leja simply asked him to leave, then Rocky would have no problem and could leave with the tribesmen. But now the other party's forced expulsion has made the tribesmen not know where they were expelled. How can Rocky find them in such a big world? Where to start looking? And if he really starts looking for the tribesmen, then by then, I'm afraid that the tribesmen will not be found by then, and the Phantom Troop will be attracted first. Unless we wait for a while, wait for the matter of the Kuruta tribe to pass, and then secretly look for other tribesmen. But the longer the time drags on, the more dangerous the tribesmen will be. After all, only some of these tribesmen can barely speak a few words of the outside language, let alone the others. They don't even know the outside language at all, and they may encounter many dangers at that time. They can't wait for Rocky to find them. Gently clenched his fists. Looking at the angry Rocky, Pyro gently pulled the corner of Rocky's clothes. Rocky, now what should we do? Hearing Pyro's voice, Rocky exhaled gently and suppressed his anger. Fortunately, there is still a tribe member who is safe and sound. Looking at Pyro's eyes, there is a trace of confusion and fear of the future. Although Rocky is younger than Pyro, he can now give Pyro a great sense of security. Don't worry, it's okay. Let's find out where this place is and which city it belongs to. Rocky turned his head and looked at the sky again. Greedy Island. There's only one way to find the tribe members as quickly as possible. Go to Greedy Island again and find Lei Jia. Although the expulsion may be more random, as a developer, he should be able to sense the approximate location of the expulsion. Only in this way can the approximate location of the tribe members be determined as quickly as possible and the search be carried out accurately. Liza, wait for me. I won't let you go. Leading Pero from the wilderness, he headed towards the direction that seemed to have some people. He soon found a road, and with his cute appearance, Rocky stopped the car directly. After the other party agreed, he took Rocky to a city. And when he first saw it here, Rocky was stunned. Even though he hadn't started to find out where this city was, Rocky looked at the iconic building. He had roughly guessed which city it belonged to. This is the Republic of Batokia. Rocky looked at the building that was directly inserted into the clouds. Pero on the side was a little confused. How did Rocky know? And he knew it all of a sudden. Rocky lowered his head and smiled. Just right, get some money. Only with money can we find our people. Pero didn't understand what Rocky said, but now he knew that it was right to listen to Rocky. At the same time, Rocky glanced at Pero on the side. You have to become stronger, Pero. In the outside world, there are no people who can protect our safety. Everything depends on ourselves. Chapter 45, New Weapon. Dragon King Sword Room on the 150th floor of the Sky Arena. Rocky sat cross-legged on the bed, exhaling gently and constantly tempering his ki. 10 days. It has been 10 days since he entered the Sky Arena. Rocky did not deliberately increase the number of floors quickly, but instead tried to maximize his profits by playing as many games as possible, so as to earn more money. In the original work, Gon and Killua could earn a full 200 million yuan by winning the game quickly and advancing to the 200th floor. Rocky deliberately won by a slight advantage every time and played as many games as possible to be entertaining. Even if he only reached the 150th floor, Rocky's income has reached 3 billion. And the people in the Sky Arena have found Rocky, hoping that Rocky will stay on the 150th floor and arrange more games for him. He will be rewarded twice for each game. If an ordinary player would agree to this condition, Rocky would probably agree, but Rocky refused directly. Making money is just a byproduct, and it is more for a temporary rest and improvement of strength. At the same time, teach Pyro Nun as soon as possible. In 10 days, Pero's progress in Nun training was very slow. Even now, he couldn't even sense the key, but Rocky still believed that Pero was fine. Now he changed his mind and let Pero practice the control of the red eyes first, and wait until he could open and close the red eyes freely. Then it might be easier to practice Nun. With the special blood of the Kuruta tribe, he naturally had to make good use of it. And in these 10 days, apart from spending more than half of the time on competitions to make money, there was only a little time left for training. But even so, Rocky also felt a new change. That is, after the physical potential was improved to the top level. Rocky's 1-hour Nun training results were already more than 10 times. Coupled with the top Nun talent, Rocky's current training speed can be said to be as crazy as a rocket. In just 10 days, Rocky could practice for less than 48 hours. But even in such a short time, Rocky's Nun ki has increased 3 times. This exaggerated speed of progress made Rocky himself feel terrible. That's why I decided to stay on the 150th floor for a while, at least for another month, waiting for the permission to modify it again. At the same time, I also want to see how much I can improve after a month of practice. How much can the amount of mind energy increase? And this period of time is also used for Pyro to practice the control of the red eyes. I hope that within 3 months, Pyro can successfully awaken a mind. If there's still no way to awaken after such a long time, then I can only try the last method, force to open the mind, but whether that method can survive is a problem. This is not Rocky's decision, but Pyro's own decision. And during this month, Rocky also has to carefully polish the next weapon. New weapons. Of course, it is also possible to materialize it directly. With Rocky's current amount of mind energy, it is completely enough to materialize a new weapon. After all, the amount of mind energy has increased 3 times, but weapons without special abilities are meaningless to Rocky. There is no need to just change the appearance. So what Rocky needs is a new weapon with new abilities. The reason why you want to wait for a month until your new modification permissions are refreshed is to use the modification permissions to give the new weapon stronger capabilities. During this month, Rocky only needs to keep thinking in his mind and imagine the new weapon in his mind. Then continue to strengthen his thoughts so that it will be easier to materialize it. Time passed day by day. On the first day after stopping the competition, Rocky basically spent 24 hours frantically training his mind. The amount of mind energy tripled in one day. And this cannot be called a big explosion of potential because Rocky has not forced himself to have more potential. At the same time, after a whole day of practice, Rocky seemed to have plenty of energy. His body did not feel completely tired. Although he felt tired, he still felt that he could persist. On the second day, Rocky still maintained high-intensity training and started to practice Jian. It took a full 8 days. Rocky successfully increased the Jian time to 3 hours. Now, maintaining the Jian state, Rocky can easily maintain it for 3 hours. This 3 hours means that Rocky's Jian always maintains a near-perfect state. It was not until 3 hours later that Rocky's Jian form began to gradually deform. The offensive and defensive capabilities decreased by 20%. After 3.5 hours, the offensive and defensive capabilities decreased by 35%. It was not until 4 hours that the minimum 60% state of Jian was completely broken. The practice of Jian came to an end. Now, there are only 20 days left, and the next step is to go further. Practice Yuan. For Rocky, Jian is for defense, and Yuan is for attack. He is a nun of manipulator. Relying on the ability of apparition, Rocky feels that Yuan can practice to a stronger state, and then Rocky's attack will be more terrifying. However, Yuan's practice is more difficult to master than Jian. In 20 days, Rocky has only expanded the range of Yuan to 20 meters. Don't underestimate the distance of 20 meters. Even Nobunaga of Phantom Troop, Yuan's best state, is only maintained at a distance of about 4 meters. Of course, if it is purely for exploration, he may be able to expand to a larger distance. But Rocky can now achieve a perfect state of Yuan at a distance of 20 meters. This distance can be regarded as temporarily meeting Rocky's requirements. And now, Rocky has to suspend these practices, although there are still many skills that have not been deeply practiced. But the most important thing at the moment is new weapon, full-on long sword. Rocky has completed the conception these days, a weapon similar to the shuriken in the Naruto world, but with some modern elements. It can be transformed and expanded into a huge shuriken like the Fuma shuriken. At the same time, the 4 corners can be decomposed into 4 daggers shaped like fan blades. A total of 4. There is a circle similar to an iron ring in the center, which will be transformed into the handguard of the dagger after decomposition. And after the fusion, the circle of this iron ring can gather thoughts. The reason for this conception is to enhance the lethality, flight speed, etc. of this weapon as a shuriken. The adjustable size is also for the convenience of various scenes. This weapon is mainly designed for assassination, or when a faster flash speed is required. And now we have to add an ability to this weapon. However, Rocky has already thought of the ability. This weapon pursues faster speed and stronger lethality. Then as a condition, when using this weapon, Rocky can only retain 10% of his own energy that can be used for defense. The remaining 90% will be injected into the weapon to enhance the power. However, before developing this ability, Rocky still needs to take a look at the new information bar. Will there be any new information bars added this time? Chapter 46 New Changes in the Information Bar. Host, Rocky, Race, Human. Kuruta, Nun Talent. Top, Nun System. Manipulator, Physical Potential. Top, Bloodline Ability. Low-level Red Eyes. Physical Condition. Good. Currently has obtained modification permission. Can be modified. As expected, a new information bar appeared. Rocky was overjoyed. The appearance of a new information bar meant new content that could be modified. However, the information displayed by the Nun system that appeared this time made Rocky stunned for a moment. It was not the level. It was the manipulator. Rocky frowned and looked at the information bar of the NIN system. If it showed the manipulator, did it mean that he could change his NIN system? Change himself from a manipulator to a person with abilities in other systems? Thinking of this, Rocky automatically made changes for Rocky, and new information appeared on the NIN system. NIN system, trait system, as expected. Rocky's eyes lit up. If this was the case, then he could modify his NIN system. However, after being happy, Rocky felt a little regretful. Although he could change his mind system, once modified, it would probably have a huge impact on his ability. Although his ability would not disappear, the power would definitely change due to the change of mind system. This seemed to be a waste of a NIN he had developed before. After all, it was NIN that consumed top talents. Although NIN still existed after modification, it was not what Rocky wanted to reduce its power. It would be great if it could be increased. NIN system, manipulator, enhancer. The sudden change of the information bar made Rocky stunned. This is also possible? Yes. It didn't say that he couldn't add a mind system later. Rocky glanced at the information bar of the NIN system and then shifted his gaze to other information bars. Was he restricted by fixed thinking again? Although other information bars showed levels, it didn't say that he couldn't continue to add others later. However, other information bars describe levels. Even if he added other level descriptions, he was afraid that the strongest one would be the only one that would have an effect in the end. All other entries will be overwritten. But in these information columns, the information column of physical condition is a little different. It is not a description of level. Does this mean that Rocky can not only modify his physical condition directly to excellent, but also add other entries? For example, always maintain excellent condition. Adding some such entries, then maybe it will be different. And Rocky thought that the modification was completed and he could actually add other entries. However, Rocky took a look at the pop-up prompt box. Physical condition, always maintain excellent condition. Confirm the modification. Estimated time to obtain the next modification permission, 1,080 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. It took nearly 3 years to modify it like this, which is too long. But on second thought, if it is really possible to maintain an excellent physical condition forever, then whether it is cultivation or learning, it will definitely provide better results. If possible, I could try to modify it. But not now. Just knowing that it can be modified in this way is enough. Rocky is not in a hurry. Now we have to look at another information column. Bloodline ability. This information column is the focus of Rocky this time. Because the information in this information column has changed before, it seems to be displayed in more detail. Before, it only showed a low level, but after the change, it showed a low-level red eye. Does it mean that there are other bloodline abilities that can be added? It is likely that it can, but Rocky does not know what the abilities of other bloodlines in this world are. It is temporarily impossible to try. Suddenly, Rocky thought of another possibility. Maybe it is not just adding the bloodline abilities of other races in this world, but also describing the existing bloodline abilities in more detail. After thinking for a while, Rocky thought of the modified entry. Bloodline ability. Perfect red eye. Looking at the newly added entry, Rocky felt that this has surpassed the level limit, but is the most perfect and ideal red eye bloodline. This should be stronger than the top red eye bloodline. Top blood only means the flaming red eyes that appear after the influence of the acquired factors under the top blood. Imperfection directly ignores the influence of the acquired factors and directly shows the most perfect flaming red eyes posture. This is definitely a stronger modification than the top term. Rocky glanced at the time it took to modify it. The estimated time to obtain the next modification permission is 27 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. It only takes 28 days. This is a bit unexpected for Rocky, but this time does not seem unacceptable. And after this modification, Rocky wants to see if there are any obvious changes in the flaming red eyes. Even if the effect of the modification does not meet his expectations, there is no problem at all. After all, it is less than a month, and Rocky can continue to wait. Confirm the modification. When Rocky silently confirmed it in his heart, the modification is completed. Host, Rocky, race, human. Kuruta, none talent. top, Nun system, manipulator, physical potential, top, bloodline ability, perfect flame eye, the flawless scarlet. I can perfectly burst out the power of the flame eye, bringing all-round enhancement, and at the same time enhancing the power of the attack on the enhancer by 100%. Physical condition. Good. Estimated time to obtain the next modification permission. 27 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. Rocky looked at the new pop-up information bar. He didn't have time to feel the changes after the modification was completed, but stared at the details behind the information bar. Is this a more detailed introduction? The enhancer's power is 100%. It turns out that it is not a conversion of the mind system, but an enhancement of the power of a certain mind system. That's right. If Rocky is in a normal state, enhancer can only exert 60% of its power. After the enhancement, it will naturally exceed 100% of the main system manipulator. In this case, it is understandable to show the characteristics of enhancer when doing Mizumi style. After all, the power of enhancer can be exerted at its highest level. Wait, Rocky suddenly looked at the detailed description of the bloodline ability. This thing may also be able to be modified. However, compared with modifying the large entries outside, modifying this detailed introduction may take more time. But the more time you spend, the better the effect you will get. Being able to define your own information in more detail will naturally take care of more aspects. Gently clenching his fist. Now there are more things that can be modified. Chapter 47, a trivial price, however, although there are more things that can be modified. But now is not the time to make modifications. Now Rocky has to develop weapons first. The new weapons have been conceived, and the ability is missing. And the ability setting is also very simple, strictly speaking, just 1 point. A large amount of thoughts can be injected into the weapon to enhance the power, speed, etc. At the same time, when the Fulong Wang sword is combined and transformed into a giant shuriken, it can be phantom shifted at a distance of 1 meter with the weapon itself as the center. No other conditions are required, and the number of times it can phantom shift is 2. This is the ability Rocky wants. As a weapon that Rocky wants to use to quickly deal with the enemy, the Fulong Wang sword must be powerful first. Secondly, it must be unexpected. If the Fulong Wang sword itself can flash, then the enemy thinks he has avoided the attack. But as long as the distance is less than 1 meter, the Fulong Wang sword can instantly flash to the fatal part and carry out an unexpected and devastating blow. And this time, as a condition for the exchange of the ability Rocky wants, Rocky has to use his own blood to exchange. The oath is to offer the power of one's own bloodline. And the only restriction Rocky set for himself was that when using the Fulong King sword, he could only retain 10% of his own thoughts, and the rest of his thoughts needed to be injected into the Fulong King sword. Buzz! The moment Rocky set the restriction and oath for himself, when he had already made up his mind, the next second, the thoughts seemed to gather automatically in front of Rocky. Flashing with white light, the powerful thoughts gathered directly. A sword gradually materialized in front of Rocky's chest. A weapon almost the same as the Fulong King sword in Rocky's conception appeared. However, it obviously had more divine characters on it, which was naturally added. Rocky learned the divine characters of the entire Kuruta tribe. Among them, the divine characters that enhance power, strengthen ability, reduce the use of thoughts, and so on. Rocky directly engraved them on the materialized weapons. This may reduce a lot of costs. And the facts also prove that Rocky's idea was correct. However, the development of Nun is not just up to the Nun user. After all, in the process of developing abilities, there are many abilities that may suddenly awaken. This time, the Fulong King sword not only has the word God engraved by Rocky, but also a word God that has never been seen before. Rocky doesn't understand what this word means. But the Fulong King sword has been successfully materialized. Now it's just a simple test. With a thought, the Fulong King sword instantly decomposed into 4 daggers. Under the control of the air, the 4 daggers flew at an extremely fast speed. It far exceeded the speed of the Xianwang sword and the Yiksha King sword, and was even more than 5 or 6 times faster. The Fulong King sword which focuses on speed and one-hit kill, has 90% of Rocky's mind on it. It's not surprising to have this speed. And Rocky controlled the four swords to merge, and then the mind gathered in the center of the Fulong King sword, and a mind geometric body similar to a mind bomb appeared. The entire Fulong King sword burst into a dazzling light. Wrapped in the dark golden energy, the Fulong King sword shot out instantly. At this moment, Rocky couldn't even control it and slowed it down. Fortunately, when it was about to penetrate the glass of the room, Rocky stopped it. It was like a bull charging at a very fast speed. Controlling the flight of this sword was much more difficult than controlling the Xian Wang sword. It seems that I need to practice the control of this sword in the future. The ability was successfully developed. Rocky wanted to see how much he had paid. Open the information bar. His eyes were directly locked on the column of Bloodline ability. Bloodline ability. Top-level fiery red eyes. Top-level Kuruta bloodline. Brings all-round enhancement. It increases the power of attacks on enhancers by 95%. The detailed description has also changed. However, the reduction in level surprised Rocky. It was just a reduction from perfect bloodline to top level. This is too little. Did he only pay such a little to get the ability of Fulong Wang's sword? As none becomes stronger, many restrictions and oaths are actually not needed. As long as the mind is strong enough, all the abilities you want can be developed. Rocky is now much stronger than before. Developing abilities on this basis will naturally not cost too much. On the contrary, the greater the price paid in this situation, the more terrifying the power obtained. Fulong Wang's sword, in terms of the strength of its ability alone, is nothing. It is just that it becomes particularly terrifying when combined with Rocky's Phantom Shift. If the ability to apparate is removed, then the ability of the Fulong King sword alone is nothing. The little bloodline level sacrificed is probably just the price of allowing the Fulong King sword to apparate within 1 meter of himself. Rocky put away the Fulong King sword. He now has 3 weapons, and these weapons are always rotating around Rocky. And with the appearance of the third weapon, Rocky suddenly found that his defense seemed to have been strengthened a lot. Now, even if he stands still, relying on the defense of the 3 weapons all the time, maybe even bullets can't hurt him. Of course, it is a small caliber pistol bullet, rifles, or stronger firearms. I don't know if Rocky can hurt him. Rocky, I have decided. Let's force awaken none. Suddenly, Pyro's voice sounded, and Rocky turned around and looked at Pyro behind him. Although Pyro was not a nun and couldn't see the scene of his ability just now, he should be able to vaguely feel something. Really think about it. You could die if you're not careful. Pyro nodded. I know, but I don't want to be a burden now, so please. Looking at Pyro's determined eyes, Rocky nodded. Okay. Forced awakening of none means forcibly opening the target's aura nodes. If there is malicious intent in this process, the other party will be hurt, and crippled limbs are just the norm. Severe cases can lead to death. Rocky has already told Pyro about these things. However, before starting to force awaken none, Pyro actually dripped eye drops on himself. His fiery red eyes opened, and Rocky was stunned for a moment. I'm ready. Come on. Rocky put his hand behind Pyro and slowly injected ki. As the aura nodes on Pyro were opened, ki was felt by Pyro for the first time. But if it is not controlled, Pyro will die soon. The exhaustion of mental energy is equivalent to the complete loss of vitality. Pyro, close your eyes. Feel your own energy. Keep the energy around your body as much as possible, and don't let it continue to dissipate. When Rocky said this, Pyro seemed to be completely out of control, and it looked like his mental energy was running wild and he was about to die. Consciousness disappeared bit by bit. However, the last second before Pyro's energy almost disappeared. Pyro, who was unconscious, suddenly opened his eyes, and a pair of red eyes seemed like a demon from hell. Ki suddenly stopped flowing. Chapter 48, Unexpected Opponent. Pyro, what's wrong with you? Just when Rocky was sighing that Pyro's anger had been controlled, Pyro stood up and looked at Rocky with lifeless eyes. At the same time, the veins on his forehead bulged, and he looked like a running zombie. Rocky frowned and looked at Pyro in front of him, and the next second Pyro punched Rocky without any warning. easily avoiding Piero's attack. Rocky now felt that things were not going well, continuously dodging while calling Piero, hoping to restore Piero's consciousness. However, this effect did not seem to be very good. Ping ping pong. The tables, chairs, benches, water cups, and teapots in the room were smashed by Piero. Rocky dodged the attack and retreated to the corner of the wall without realizing it. Piero pounced directly, and Rocky sighed softly, raised his hand, and punched. Bang! It hit Piero's face directly, knocking him out and falling heavily to the ground. Looking at the motionless Piero lying on the ground, Rocky approached and carefully checked Piero's condition. The air had not leaked out, but now he seemed to have fainted and his breathing was a little weak. Was this considered a successful awakening or a failure? It seemed that everything could only be known when Piero woke up, carried Piero to the bed. Dong dong dong. At this time, there was a knock on the door, and Rocky came to the door and opened it. It was the staff on the 150th floor. Although Rocky was young, the staff did not dare to underestimate Rocky. This was a monster player who had won all the way and played with his opponents in a very showy way every time. Luo. Mr. Rocky, I heard some noise in your room just now. Did something happen? Rocky said calmly. It's nothing. I just knocked over a few things. Don't worry, I will compensate you. That's not necessary. The waiter looked at the messy room, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. This might not be the sound of something being knocked over, but he didn't intend to ask. Just breaking some things was not important. You came here to ask this? The other party smiled awkwardly and said, No. I came here to inform Rocky that you have a game tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Please be on time. Okay, I got it. After saying that, Rocky looked at the other party, and his calm eyes also doubled the pressure on the other party. Please call me anytime if you need anything. You are an excellent player in the Sky Arena. As long as you have any needs, we can provide all services. No need. Bang. Rocky covered his head helplessly after closing the door. Pyro's current situation gave him a headache. If I had known earlier, I would not have forced awakening. Now the situation is quite tricky. Observe it. If it doesn't work, think of other ways. If Pyro can wake up by himself, then it will naturally not be a problem. However, the situation is often worse than expected. The next day, no matter how Rocky shouted during the period, Pyro seemed to have become a vegetable, and there was no reaction at all. After all, not everyone is a genius like Gon, and the risk of forced awakening is like this. For ordinary people, it is a matter of life and death, and in most cases, it is direct death. As the game time approaches, Rocky can only leave temporarily to participate in the Sky Arena game. Arriving at the game, Rocky finally appeared after the host used countless words of praise to introduce him. As soon as he appeared, the audience cheered. Little Monster. That's right, these guys call Rocky Little Monster. That's right, this is our little monster player in the Sky Arena, and his opponent today is also very interesting. We are both 8-year-old players. Don't be fooled by the fact that our little monster's opponent is also 8 years old, but he has advanced to the 150th floor at a faster speed. All his opponents were defeated. Then let's enjoy this wonderful game, especially our Killua. As the host introduced, Rocky's expression changed slightly. Killa, I was busy with Pyro's affairs yesterday and had no time to check the information of my opponent today. Rocky had no idea that he would meet Killua, and it happened at this time. That's right, Killa did come to the Sky Arena when he was 8 years old, but he didn't expect to run into him. The cute 8-year-old Killua, who is taller than the original, walked onto the stage. He looked at Rocky very vigilantly. As soon as he stepped onto the stage, little Killua felt something was wrong. The opponent stood there casually and looked full of flaws, but he also had a feeling that every flaw of the opponent was a trap. What's going on? Why does a person of the same age give me this feeling? As a killer, he instinctively felt the danger, but Killua didn't believe that an 8-year-old kid could be as good as him or even stronger than him. The game begins. At the referee's command, Killua rushed forward in one step with a speed that ordinary people could not do at all. However, even with such a speed, Rocky didn't care. Easily dodged sideways, Rocky dodged 3 consecutive hand knife attacks. Killa's face became much uglier. How could it be? This guy actually dodged his attack so easily. When he came on the court, Killua put his hands in his pockets, as if he didn't know what his opponent was. And now Rocky put his hands in his pockets and easily dodged his attack. It seems that he didn't take Killua seriously at all. At this moment, Rocky looked at Killua. The 8-year-old protagonist is also the protagonist, but his strength is too weak. Although I am quite interested in the protagonist, I'm sorry. I'm in a hurry now. Rocky is most worried about the situation of Pyro, and he feels uneasy if he leaves for a second. If Pyro wakes up when I leave, and if Pyro's consciousness hasn't recovered and he goes berserk again, it will be bad. So, at the moment Killua stopped, Rocky suddenly took a step forward, just such a simple step. Killua only felt a gust of wind blowing on his face, and when he subconsciously stepped back, a hand suddenly grabbed his shoulder. Rocky, with his legs crossed, just turned around and exerted force with his waist. This action is very familiar to Killua, an over-the-shoulder throw. Crack! Accompanied by an amazing roar, Killua was directly smashed to the ground. The ground of the ring collapsed directly, and cracks appeared on the 3 or 4 floors around it. Killua felt that he couldn't breathe, as if he couldn't breathe at all. His consciousness began to blur. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. Rocky's voice came, and Killua completely lost consciousness at this time. Fainted. The audience was silent, and even the referee was stunned. This was Rocky's fastest fight ever. In the past, no matter how strong his opponent was, Rocky would always fight for the longest time. But this time, he killed the opponent instantly with one move. The audience, who had been silent for a few seconds, suddenly cheered. Seeing this scene, the referee and the host also breathed a sigh of relief. The length of time is not important. If you can make the audience happy, you can make money. It seems that after playing a long battle, the occasional instant kill scene can make the audience more excited. Chapter 49, The Price of Purchasing an Intelligence Rookie in the Battle. Returning to his room, Rocky has now reached the 160th floor due to his victory again. But Rocky is not going to stay in the Sky Arena any longer. If Pyro doesn't wake up in a few days, Rocky will have to find other Nun and figure out what happened to Pyro first. In the next few days, Pyro remained motionless and in a coma, like a vegetable. During these days, Rocky also successfully purchased an address on the internet by spending 100 million yuan. Where? It is the contact point of the Nun, that is, the underground dark web, and it is also a Nun organization that is not a hunter organization. Provide intelligence, work, tasks, and other services. After Rocky went through the formalities of the Sky Arena, he left the Sky Arena, and the next time he came, he had to start from the first floor, but it didn't matter to Rocky. Taking a special airship, Rocky came to another country, a place called the Republic of Mayajida. This is the location of the Nun organization that Rocky bought for 100 million yuan. Because he was not sure about leaving Pyro in the hotel, Rocky directly put Pyro in a black bag. He carried the bag with him at all times. At the same time, Rocky also bought a mask. Although this kind of thing may not be useful for Nun with special abilities, it is always better to be careful. And Rocky also put on contact lenses, which he usually carries. He materialized the Sword of the Wise King and put it directly on his back. This is also to make others mistakenly think that he is a Nun of other systems. Visible weapons can make people feel more at ease than invisible weapons. Came to a very luxurious high-end villa area. Led by the security guard, Rocky walked into the villa, which was completely opposite to Rocky's imagination of remote, dilapidated, and inconspicuous. This place is so eye-catching that Rocky even wondered if he was fooled when he came in. A waste of 100 million in vain. But after entering the villa, he saw 2 Nun sitting on a luxurious sofa in the hall with their eyes closed. Rocky came in, and the 2 had no reaction to Rocky's weird appearance. Instead, he raised his hand and pointed to the room upstairs. Arriving at the room upstairs, Rocky pushed open the door and saw a small room with bright lights. There were no special decorations, only 4 simple white walls that were clear at a glance. A middle-aged man sat in the middle of the room, and 2 stools and a table were the only furnishings in the room. Rocky came to sit in front of the other person. The other person looked at Rocky. Although Rocky was wearing a mask, judging from his height, he was either a stunted human or a ghost. If it was the latter, it would be a bit surprising. "Sir, what help do you need?" "Information," Rocky said in a deep voice. "What kind of help?" "Tell me. Our prices are different according to different situations." Rocky's eyes turned slightly. "What about ordinary people who are forced to awaken none, but become vegetative? Do you have any information about this?" Hearing this, the other person was stunned for a moment and glanced at the black bag behind Rocky, which was big enough to hold a man of his stature. The other party smiled and said, "I see. Of course, we have this kind of basic information. It seems that the awakening ability has not been long." Rocky did not answer, and the other party did not continue to talk. But he set a price. 30 million. This price is for customers who come here for the first time. In other words, it is the price for rookies. Rocky waved his hand indifferently and said, "Okay." The other party did not hesitate. It was only 30 million, which was easy for a nun to earn, and he did not think Rocky would dare to default on the debt. Becoming a vegetable when forced to awaken is actually the same as death. This kind of person doesn't have enough talent to become a nun. After saying these two sentences, the other party looked at Rocky and had no intention of continuing to speak. In other words, 2 sentences for 30 million. Is there any way to wake people up? 70 million. Rocky nodded and said yes. In fact, these people also have a chance to wake up. Some people become vegetative for more than 10 years, and their ki automatically grows to a certain limit, and they can wake up. Of course, everyone's critical point is different, and no one can tell when they can wake up. Rocky frowned when he heard this. If this is the case, doesn't it mean that Piero, after a few seconds of silence, the other party was not in a hurry and just looked at Rocky quietly. After a long time, Rocky spoke up. "If other people have a way to give him ki, can he wake up?" The other party smiled when he heard this question. Theoretically, it is possible, but it is impossible for different individual ki to merge, especially in the vegetative state. The ki that is unconsciously controlled will repel all external ki. Even if 2 people develop abilities together, they need to consciously control ki. In this case, it is extremely difficult to develop an ability together. Not to mention an unconscious vegetative person. After hearing the previous words, Rocky already had an idea. Maybe I can really save Piero if my idea succeeds. The answer just now is a gift. If there is nothing else, you can leave after going downstairs to pay the money. The other party looked at Rocky with contempt. He didn't care about a newcomer like Rocky at all. A few words, 100 million is gone. Rocky raised his head. "I want another piece of information." "What? Is there any way to get Greed Island now? Or who has it?" The other party was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that a newcomer actually knew Greed Island. 500 million. Rocky still nodded. "No problem. There is a rich man in this country who has 2 games of Greed Island, but they are not for sale. As for the others, there are many. I can list 10 targets for you. And now there's only one way to get Greed Island, rob or steal. From these people, there is no Greed Island on the market anymore." After hearing this, Rocky stood up directly without any other words. "A total of 600 million. Thank you for your patronage and welcome to visit next time." Money doesn't matter to Rocky. Just knowing useful information is enough. Leave the villa. Rocky lifted up Pyro on his back. There are only 2 things to do now. One is to find a way to return to Greed Island. The other is to wake up Pyro. Otherwise, Pyro can't wake up, and Rocky is worried about leaving him alone outside. And Rocky has some ideas to wake up Pyro. Although under normal circumstances, it is indeed impossible for the ki of 2 people to merge, and repulsion is indeed terrible. But Rocky and Piero have one thing in common, and maybe some miracles will happen because of this commonality. That is blood. Chapter 50 Bloodline Link King's sword. After coming out, Rocky took Pyro and left the city by car. In order to prevent being tracked by these guys, a non-hunter in an organization, it is hard to guarantee that they will not have any ideas. On the way to the next city, Rocky got off the car halfway and headed for the wild forest. In the forest, Rocky wandered around for a long time before he barely found a good place. Put Pyro down and looked at the sleeping Pyro. Rocky simply fed him some water and liquid food. Food and water. Rocky naturally couldn't run directly to the wilderness without preparation. After ensuring Pyro's basic nutritional needs, Rocky began to think about how to make Pyro recover. When Rocky heard the information from the black-hearted businessman before, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Use external factors to help Pyro improve the power of mind. This is quite interesting to Rocky, and it also makes Rocky think of an ability. In a fantasy world, the power of the king can be shared with others. Everyone's magic power comes from a king. Although Rocky is not a king in this world, he is a member of the Kuruta tribe, and Pyro is also a member of the Kuruta tribe. Both of them have the blood of the flaming red eyes, so they can use the blood to connect. Maybe they can develop the ability to share their own power like this. But the problem Rocky is thinking about now is that if he shares his power with Pyro, it means that his power will become weaker. And whether the thoughts he shares with Pyro are permanent or temporary is also a question. Will temporary sharing affect Pyro's awakening? The worst case is that it is temporarily shared, but Pyro has no signs of awakening at all. Then the ability is useless. So it is better to develop the ability of permanent sharing. But permanent sharing will weaken Rocky himself. Sighed softly. After thinking about it for a while, Rocky felt that there was a way to solve this problem. Since it is a connection through blood, the cost of permanent sharing of power should be placed on blood ability. Sharing ability reduces blood level. The more you share, the more it will be reduced. If this is the price, then Rocky doesn't care. Bloodline abilities can be modified, and now he still has top-level bloodline, so it doesn't matter if it is reduced. Thinking of this, Rocky exhaled lightly. Whether this ability can be developed or not, he doesn't know now. He can only try it first. After developing so many abilities, Rocky has also gained some experience. No matter what kind of ability you develop, if possible, it is best to put yourself in some extreme emotions or states so that the mind will seem to react by itself. Extreme panic. The mind will automatically change into some powerful ability for you because it wants to protect you. Extreme anger. The mind will naturally evolve into some terrifying ability because you want to kill someone. And now, Rocky needs to put himself in the extreme thoughts and emotions of wanting to save Pyro. Let the mind react first so that you can further formulate constraints and oaths to quickly develop the ability. In fact, the development of an ability does not necessarily require constraints and oaths to develop. For example, Netero spent decades carefully honing his abilities, and his abilities have no constraints or restrictions. The ability is also extremely powerful. There is no difference between the two development methods, but the latter requires more energy and time. But what Rocky lacks now is time. As Rocky began to develop, he entered the state of meditation directly. Time flies. It was 5 days. During these 5 days, Rocky meditated deeply for a long time and strengthened his idea of saving Pyro. And the key began to change in this process. Rocky is a manipulator, and even if he wants to save someone, the ability he develops is actually to materialize something. The prototype of the ability appears, and a large number of white crystals surround Rocky, but there is no way to condense into a real object. Rocky doesn't know how to successfully materialize this object. He can only keep this state. It lasted for a few days, and one day, Rocky suddenly thought of something. He turned around and cut a wound on Pyro's hand. The moment the blood flowed out, the white crystals began to change, and the color changed. Purple crystals were formed, and these crystals that have been surrounding Rocky finally completed the materialization at this moment. A short knife appeared in Rocky's hand. With the appearance of the short knife, Rocky clearly felt that part of his bloodline ability seemed to have been taken away out of thin air. Bloodline ability, top-level red eyes, top-level Kuruta bloodline, bringing all-round enhancement, and at the same time increasing the power of the attack on the enhancer by 91%. Although his bloodline ability has obviously decreased, his bloodline level is still top level? Is it just such a small price to pay? That would be great. In the future, Rocky can share his abilities with not only Pyro, but other tribesmen as well. Let all the Kuruta tribe's ability users become stronger. This may be the thought hidden deep in Rocky's heart, and none seems to be affected. It seems that he knows what to do next. Rocky puts the short knife, which is still in the state of crystallization and entity, on Pyro's chest. As soon as it touches Pyro's body, the crystal breaks directly in the next second, turning into countless tiny crystals and flying into Pyro's body. And at this moment, an inexplicable connection also makes Rocky seem to be able to feel Pyro's life state. At least he can roughly feel whether Pyro is dead. At the moment, Pyro's ki seems to be stronger, and the weak ki begins to become stronger. But it seems that it is not enough to wake him up. Rocky frowned. I always feel that something is missing, and it should be successful with only the last step. What is missing? That's right. Rocky clapped his hands suddenly. He smiled and looked at Pyro, who was lying with his eyes closed. From today on, you are my sword and my shield. Use this power to protect me forever. Protect your king. After this inexplicable sentence was finished, the next second Pyro's energy suddenly surged. Then Pyro opened his eyes and took a crazy breath. He stood up and looked around blankly. Rocky quietly observed Pyro. At this moment, Pyro seemed to have a lot of information to process in his mind. After a while, he turned his head and looked at Rocky. King. The word king made Rocky stunned for a moment. It seems that the words just now are like some kind of contract, and Pyro's king is considered to have agreed to the contract. Rocky smiled and said, just call me by my name. Finally, I didn't waste my energy to wake you up. Pyro also roughly understood the situation and nodded. Thank you. Rocky, you saved my life. Waving his hands, Rocky said he didn't care. Now Rocky was curious about, can you use my ability? Chapter 51. Fantasy game Greed Island. Pyro lowered his head and felt it carefully for a moment. Then he raised his right hand and spread his 5 fingers, crackling. The sound of crystals colliding sounded. Purple crystals appeared instantly and then condensed into a short knife. A short knife with an exaggerated curvature of the blade. The shape is more like the claws of cat. The attack range is less than 1 meter, but the length of the blade is far more than 1 meter due to its arc shape. However, this shape is very convenient for throwing. While Rocky was analyzing, Pyro suddenly threw the scimitar in his hand. The scimitar flew over a distance of 5 or 6 meters in the air like a full moon, and the next second, the phantom of the purple crystal appeared. Pyro grabbed the scimitar, and the phantom was instantly performed. Seeing this scene, Rocky's eyes lit up. It really works. Pyro was also excited. Rocky, this is your ability? Great. So amazing, you can actually teleport. It's not really teleportation. You still need weapons as the coordinates of the flash. But even so, it's amazing. For Rocky's modesty, Pyro felt that it was nothing. Then Rocky asked, how far can you flash now? That was my limit just now. Pyro answered quickly, and this answer made Rocky stunned for a moment. Is the distance of 5 or 6 meters the limit? If you use your own ability, shouldn't you be able to see the range of the weapon clearly? This distance should be at least 100 meters. But Pyro's distance is too close. Are there any other abilities besides this? Rocky asked, and Pyro shook his head when he heard this question. No. Are there any other abilities I can use? Without answering Pyro's question, Rocky thought. In this case, it is highly likely that the person who accepts this ability link can use his own apparition after agreeing to the contract, but the extent to which he can use it depends on himself. At the same time, other abilities cannot be shared. After all, it only consumes a little bit of blood power, and it is already very good to have such an effect. In addition, when materializing the items, Pyro's blood is added. It may be that it has been decided here that if you want to improve the strength of the ability, you need to rely on the other party himself. Rocky, how far can you flash? Pyro, holding a scimitar, looked at Rocky curiously. About 100 meters. After saying that, Rocky stretched his body gently. These days of crazy meditation is indeed a bit tiring. I don't know how Netero can persist in polishing the 100-style guanine for decades. Take a rest here for a day. You can take the time to study the ability of apparition. We will leave tomorrow. Where to go? Pyro tried to flash again. Go find other tribesmen. Rocky couldn't help but clench his fists when he thought of Leja. He didn't know where the tribesmen were. I hope nothing happens to them. Otherwise, Rocky will not let Leja go. The next day, after a day of rest, Rocky regained his spirits. And an unexpected gain was that although he was mainly meditating these days, but I didn't expect that the amount of his mind energy increased a lot. Compared with before, it has at least doubled again. I estimate that my current level should be close to the level of the bomb demon in the original book. This only refers to the level of fighting with bare hands and relying only on mind energy, not using abilities. If you use your ability, it will be more terrifying. At the same time, Pyro is also familiar with the ability of apparition, and he likes a weapon that can be summoned at any time. Before setting off, Rocky asked Pyro to do a water-seeing ceremony. Emitter. Rocky was stunned. Pyro frowned. What is an emitter? Is it bad? Shaked his head. There is no good or bad system category. It depends on how you develop your own ability. Develop ability? Don't I already have ability? You're using my ability. You can also develop your own ability. Rocky got up and put on his bag. Let's go. I'll explain it to you on the way. Now, the destination is another city 500 kilometers away. According to the information obtained from the black-hearted businessman before, there is a rich man in this city. Because he is interested in fantasy things, he bought several sets of Greed Island games. Rocky now has more than 2 billion left, which is not enough to buy a set of Greed Island. So there are only two ways left. One is to use this money to directly buy 2 game positions, and the other is to directly become a villain. Find a memory card and enter the game directly. With Rocky's current level of mind comparable to that of the bomb demon, there should be no enemy that can threaten Rocky when he enters the game. After all, the bomb demon in the original book is rampant. Most of the players have become a meal. There is no danger in entering the Greed Island. It's just that you need to protect Pyro, but Pyro, who has his own abilities, is not weak even though he is just a nun beginner. The combat power of capable and incapable nun is completely different. Rocky took Pyro on the road quickly. The target location is a villa halfway up a mountain. A large group of bodyguards with guns and 3 nun are guarding this place. The 3 nun looked at their employer with a serious expression. That rookie probably gave up. If he had any idea about you, he would have done it long ago. Another nun also said, "Indeed, maybe those guys just wanted to take the opportunity to make some money this time." Fortunately, 30 million is not a lot. Although 2 nun mercenaries said so, the employer still seemed worried. Don't relax recently. I don't want my game to be stolen. Stolen. But Rocky didn't think about stealing anything at all, but planned to enter the game directly. After several days of traveling, he finally arrived here. The heavily guarded villa surprised Rocky a little. It shouldn't be so strict under normal circumstances, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, now Pyro also has the ability of apparition. It is not difficult to sneak into this villa. The game storage point is located in a basement. Although there is a door that requires a password to open, it is very easy for Rocky to enter. The game memory card and ring were found in another place. There seem to be a lot of these things. When someone opens the door, throw the sword into the room. Of course, the sword is hidden during this process. After successfully entering the room, Rocky opened the door from the inside and let Pyro in. The next day, when the employer came to the underground secret room again to check on the status of the game strategy personnel, inexplicably found 2 more memory cards. This made the rich man roar in anger instantly. There are only 3 of the 5 reserve positions now, and there is no way to pull them out. Who the hell did this? Chapter 52, entering the new game plan. It takes time to enter the game. The next player can enter only after the previous player has finished listening to the explanation of the game. And in order to ensure safety, it is natural that Pyro enters first. After waiting for a few minutes, Rocky also started to enter the game. I had agreed with Pyro before, and I would wait at the starting point. On the way here, Rocky also roughly explained what Greed Island is. When Pyro knew that this was a game developed by a nun, and that he would die in the game and die in reality. It was really shocking to hear such news. Pyro, who had just become a nun, obviously did not know enough about the power of nun. Rocky came to the initial hut, looking at the woman in front of him. If Rocky remembered correctly, this woman's name was Eton, who was responsible for the game explanation at the entrance and the questions of number 000. While listening to the other party 493 explaining the rules of the game, Luoki was also analyzing the other party. It is likely that the other party is an emitter or conjurer. There is no basis for this. It is just Rocky's simple feeling. When the other party finished explaining, Rocky looked at the other party indifferently. Isn't it boring to stay in this place all the time? The sudden question made Eton's standard smile freeze. Few players will find that she is a real person as soon as she enters. This player named Kuruta, Lo, seems to be very unusual. She seems to be a companion of the player with the ID Kuruta Pi in front. However, Eton does not need to answer questions outside the game, but just smiles at Rocky again. The other party does not want to answer, so Rocky leaves. To be honest, Rocky was quite curious at that time. As real people, this Miss Eton and the other twin Miss Elena, who is responsible for sending the players away, they've been on Greedy Island all the time. Don't they really get bored? What also interests Rocky is this room. If Rocky feels right, it should be a materialized house, and the white light on the wall flows with strange patterns. These patterns have no meaning, but there is a high probability that the Word of God is engraved under the light. It's just that I don't know what Word of God they engraved in this room. There should be quite a few. To receive players from all over the world to this place, at least with the divine word and Rocky's power that Rocky currently possesses, it is impossible to achieve such an effect. Interesting. The Greed Island is indeed very interesting. After leaving the initial hut, Rocky saw Pyro waiting at the door. This guy didn't even go down the stairs. Rocky, are we entering the game now? Pyro seemed to be relieved at last seeing Rocky. Rocky nodded, come in. Is this really the island where we accidentally landed last time? It doesn't look like it. This made Rocky roll his eyes. Of course, this is not the seaside. Pyro scratched his head. Then what do we do now? Where can we find our tribesmen? Hearing this, Rocky stopped and stood on the last step. The first task now is not to find our tribesmen, but to become fishy. Become stronger? Pyro was a little confused, and Rocky didn't intend to explain anything. If you want to find your tribe members, you must first meet Lei Jia. Meeting Lei Jia is easy, but you don't know if he will tell you the location of his tribe members after meeting him. And meeting Lei Jia is not that simple. First of all, you may not be able to find him if you look for him alone in private. Although you know where he is, it is highly unlikely that you will be able to teach him a lesson if you go to Rocky now. The strength is definitely not as good as Lei Jia's. Secondly, most of the tribesmen have been expelled, and even expelled to different locations. Those expelled tribesmen cannot have not encountered danger or even death. So Rocky wants to beat Lei Jia severely. If it is confirmed that a tribe member has died, then Luo, you will definitely come back for revenge. Become stronger? But if we find the tribe members earlier, won't they be safer? That's true, but those who are in danger will die. And those who won't die will either burst their potential or learn to survive. Time has passed so long, and it doesn't matter if I wait a little longer. If the strength is not strong enough, it may not even make Lei Jia speak. Just listen to me. $300. Without thinking too much, Pyro nodded in agreement. Becoming stronger is not without direction. If you can't see Lei Jia directly, then there is only one way to see Lei Jia, the strategy game. Make Lei Jia have to see you through events. As for the 8-on-8 dodgeball battle of Liza, Rocky does not have the resources like Gon and Killua to gather so many powerful nun. The only one he can rely on is himself. In other words, it is time for Rocky to develop the ability of his mind beast. As a manipulator, it is normal to develop his own mind beast ability. However, if he is not a transmuter, most of his mind beasts are in the manipulating form rather than the self-control form. In this case, even if the mind beast is developed, it is likely to be defeated by Liza. In this case, we need to think of other ways. And it just so happens that the information bar that was refreshed before has already added the information bar of the mind system. After waiting for more than 10 days, Rocky will be able to modify it again, and then he can directly add a mind system. Add the transmuter's mind system. And adding the transmuter's ability will also be of great help. First of all, Rocky was originally a manipulator. The ability of the transmuter can only be exerted by 40%. And if the transmuter's mind system is added, then from the perspective of the transmuter, Rocky transmuter can exert 100% of its power. Enhancer and emitter can exert 80% each. And on the other hand, manipulator itself also has it. Then, in addition to the special system, the ability of his conjurer can also exert 100%. Rocky guessed that if the ability of transmuter was increased, then the ability of his enhancer and emitter would be increased in disguise. In this way, the power that Rocky's various systems can exert became like this. Manipulator, 100% conjurer, 84% special system, 0% emitter, 80% enhancer, 80% normal state. Transmuter, 100% each system can exert at least 80% of its power, and improving one system also enhances the other two systems in disguise. Rocky thought, and suddenly a roar came from the sky. Crack! Accompanied by the fluctuation of mind energy, a person fell directly from the sky and appeared in front of Rocky and Pyro. Looking at the person who suddenly appeared, Pyro opened his mouth wide enough to swallow an egg. Rocky curled his lips. The guy who bullies newbies is here so soon? People like this, they are really annoying. Another newbie is here, great. I haven't seen a newbie for a long time. Then you two are my chickens. Chapter 53. The mind system increases the development of mind beasts. The other party directly recited the spell, took out a spell card from the card collection book, and wanted to use it on Rocky and Pyro. But suddenly a weak wave of mind energy appeared. The guy suddenly widened his eyes. He looked forward in horror. Rocky held a long sword in his hand, pointing directly at his throat. If your throat moves again, I will pierce it immediately. The other party looked at the kid in front of him in disbelief. Isn't he a rookie? And how could such a kid have such a terrible speed? Now do whatever I say. The other party blinked his eyes and didn't even dare to nod, for fear that he would touch Rocky's sword when he lowered his head and be pierced in the throat. Pyro, check his card collection book and put all the cards in your card collection book. Pyro nodded, but soon asked, what book of mine? Hey, Rocky sighed. You raise your hand with the ring and recite. Pyro did as he was told, and a book appeared with white smoke. Still surprised, Pyro heard Rocky urging him. Pyro quickly stepped forward to take the other party's book and search through it 10 pages at a time. Put the cards with numbers in the designated pockets, and the cards without numbers in any pockets. Pyro still understood these, but Rocky still reminded him. Soon, the two of them got a total of 21 cards for the designated pockets, and only 7 cards for any pockets. It seems that you're not that good. As an old player, you only have so few cards? Seeing Rocky's disdainful look, the other party also understood at this time. Do you know the rules of the game of Greed Island? Rocky didn't say anything, which made the other party more certain that Rocky knew. How could you, a newcomer, know that? Did an old player tell you in advance? Damn, I'm in trouble this time. You got the cards, so you can let me go. Hearing this, Rocky put away his sword and put it behind him casually. The other party took a few steps back with a vigilant look on his face and then ran away quickly. What are these cards for, Rocky? You'll know soon, Rocky said, looking in a direction. Let's go to the nearest town first and collect some food and daily necessities. Develop the mind beast. Deal with Leja. Rocky has no idea about the mind beast now. To be precise, the mind beast he wants to develop is probably impossible with his current level. If he uses talent or something to restrict and pledge, he may be able to develop it, but that will delay at least another month, and Rocky needs it as soon as possible. And how long it will take for the next modification is still unknown. After arriving at the nearest town, Rocky naturally has no shortage of money in the game through the card of the previous player. After buying some daily necessities, Rocky took Pai Luo to the wild. Waiting for the next modification, there are still more than 10 days. During this period, Pai Luo will have a special training, and Rocky himself will also conduct further and more refined training. Mind, this kind of thing requires training very much. If you don't exercise for many years, even your hands and feet will become unfamiliar. Just like Juzi Jula in the original book. The first step of Piero's training is to increase the amount of mind energy. Digging tunnels, smashing stones, and training must be carried out continuously. At the same time, you must stay alert at all times and places. It is also necessary to practice falling stones while sleeping. At the same time, Rocky is also doing the same training as Piero. Although Rocky has already mastered the skills of using these mind energy, basic training is equally important. More than 10 days have passed in a blink of an eye. This time, Rocky is also looking forward to the appearance of a new information column. Otherwise, he will make the changes according to his original idea. Host, Rocky race, human. Kuruta, nun talent. Top talent, highest level nun talent of humans. Nun system. Manipulator, physical potential. Top, bloodline ability. Top fiery red eyes. Top Kuruta bloodline. Brings all-round enhancement and increases the power of Enhancer's attack by 90%. Physical condition, good, no new information column appeared this time, but a more detailed description appeared in the talent column. This means that Rocky can make more detailed modifications to this talent. Also, they are top talents, but there are differences at the same level. Gon, Killua, and others may also have the highest level of nun talents of humans. But if Rocky adds a sentence like, their comprehension is against the sky, and they're the most talented among humans, then his talent will become even more terrifying. It would be nice to have a detailed introduction, but since it is just a detailed introduction, there is no need to rush to modify it, or follow the original plan and add a transmuter to his nun system first. Nun system. Manipulator, transmuteri, confirm the modification. The estimated time for the next modification permission acquisition is 6 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. It only takes 7 days? That's not bad. 7 days is enough. Then let's decide. Let's add a transmuter first. After completing the modification, Rocky didn't feel any other changes in his energy or body. It was only after releasing a telekinetic bullet that he felt the change. The power of the telekinetic bullet can not only be kept at the same power as the original body to the maximum extent. At the same time, Rocky's telekinetic bullet can easily fly a distance of 50 to 60 meters, and the experience is amazing. Rocky seems to have experienced the joy of transmuter. After adding the release system, Rocky will develop new abilities next. Rocky already has ideas about the development of new abilities. Telekinetic Beast. Luo Qi doesn't think the abilities of the mind beasts that have appeared in the Hunter world are that powerful, and you have to develop them in combination with the abilities you already have. You can modify the information bar, and in principle, you can have as many abilities as you want as long as you have enough time. But try to form a complete system. And Rocky now has an idea. Ice. Ice God. Noctis can summon 6 gods to help him fight. It can even be said that it clears the field with one move. Rocky suddenly thought of the 6 gods, and the number 6 corresponds to the 6 mind systems of none. I don't know if it is possible to develop the 6 gods, and the first one to be developed is the Ice God. It corresponds to his own manipulator. At the same time, if the Ice God is developed into the form of a mind beast, then the transmuter should also be able to play a big role. The cost of developing the 6 gods ability is probably not small. Rocky only has an idea. If the cost is too high, then Rocky will choose to give up. Now, you can try it first. There are exactly 7 days to try the first step. Rocky, what are you doing? Ice making. Rocky put a large pair of saltpeter into a jar. Chapter 50 for the ability of the red eyes. Ice making. Pyro looked up at the sun hanging in the sky. Although the temperature is indeed quite hot, it's not so hot in this season. It's not so hot that ice is needed. Besides, if you need ice, why not just buy it? The store in the small town before basically has everything. Everything you can think of in daily life is provided. In the simple cellar dug by Rocky himself, there is a huge pool. Rocky puts jars in the pool, which are filled with saltpeter and water. Saltpeter can absorb heat, so that the temperature of water can be quickly reduced until it freezes. Ice making is not Rocky's main purpose. The main purpose is to observe the phenomenon of freezing, or to let oneself deeply experience the low-temperature environment. This is also to help the development of the mind beast in the future. Of course, don't expect to be able to fully understand and integrate this feeling of lowering temperature into your own energy minister in the future. That's not realistic. Killa converts the mind energy into electricity because he has been influenced by the electric current punishment since he was a child. Only in this case can he develop such a handsome ability later. Therefore, the experience and understanding of a certain thing by the ability user is very important for the development of ability. 7 days. It happened that Rocky used these 7 days to experience the feeling of being in a low-temperature environment and remember this feeling. Although it is impossible to get it right in one step like Killua and understand the key points instantly. But there is at least a sign, and the next step is to rely on constraints and oaths to mature. For 7 days, Rocky basically stayed in the cellar, feeling the low-temperature environment, carefully observing the freezing process. At the same time, he could not use mind to resist. Every time he came out of the cellar, Rocky's body was covered with frostbite. However, although the frostbite was quite serious, Rocky's physique was quite abnormal. After sleeping for a night, he basically recovered. As a nun, the aura itself has a certain effect of enhancing recovery. In addition to Rocky's top physique, the recovery speed cannot be achieved at a visible recovery speed. But for general minor wounds, such as those caused by a knife, it takes about 10 hours for the wound to recover from scarring to shedding. This recovery speed is quite amazing. Maybe in the future, a special healing ability can be developed, just like Kurapika. By strengthening the self-healing and regeneration ability of cells, the injury can be instantly recovered. 7 days passed in a blink of an eye. During this period, Rocky also saw that Pyro's talent was indeed very ordinary. He had just begun to comprehend Zhou's skills after 7 days. This kind of talent is probably average among none. It may take several years of practice to become a strong one. Rocky shook his head. Rocky, aren't you going in today? No. Rocky shook his head. Pyro, who had several big lumps on his head, asked Rocky listlessly in the early morning. These days of vigilance training took Rocky less than 3 hours to master, and Pyro, 7 days have passed, and now he is still hit on the head by falling stones when he sleeps at night, but the frequency of falling stones has decreased a lot. Maybe it will take another half a month to master it. Looking at this Pyro, Rocky couldn't help but sigh that if he didn't have a golden finger, he would be worse than Lang Luo. But there is no if in everything. So this is fate. Rocky clicked on the information bar. There was no special change as last time. Talent, physique, and bloodline are all top-notch, and the detailed introduction is the same as last time. There is nothing to study. There is no new information column. There will probably be no new information column in the 7-day modification. Rocky has expected this. And this time Rocky has only one modification to make. Modify the bloodline. Why did Rocky still choose to modify the bloodline ability this time? Of course, it is not without purpose. During these 7 days, Rocky thought a lot. While feeling the cold, he was also thinking about how to develop the 6 gods. Although the top priority is to develop the mind beast to deal with Lei Jia, Rocky cannot only focus on the mind beast. Instead, it needs to be more long-term. Develop the 6 gods. The first one is the ice god. The purpose is to create a mind beast, a powerful mind beast. Based on this purpose, Rocky will choose to make ice while perceiving and experiencing the formation of ice, creating a condition for developing the power of the ice god. At the same time, Rocky also thought a lot. If it is the ability to control ice, then the difficulty of developing the ice god will increase exponentially. After all, control means a lot of conjurer training. If you want to master the change of a thought, it is not only difficult, but also time-consuming. So Rocky is considering giving up the ability to control ice. There is no need to control ice, and you don't need to use your own thoughts to freeze something. It is enough to release the ice-attributed thought beast through the thought beast. After determining the ability you want, you have to talk about how to achieve it. If you don't have so much time, you have to achieve it through approach restriction, and oath. Then, the first step is restriction. Rocky doesn't care about restrictions. After all, Rocky can be modified. Through the power of the oath, he can achieve the power he wants to a large extent. But this time is different. 6 gods. It is not difficult to represent the power of the ice god with just a thought beast. But what about the other 6 gods? The ability that Rocky imagined is quite terrifying. So the restriction also needs to be more stringent. First, to use the power of the 6 gods, you cannot use it in normal state, but only when the red eyes are turned on. Of course, the ability to use just by opening the red eyes seems to be very relaxed. On this basis, Rocky also added a little bit. When the red eyes are turned on, once the 6 gods' power is used, the bloodline power will be continuously consumed, and the consumed bloodline power will increase exponentially. Once the bloodline is exhausted, Rocky will never be able to use the 6 gods' power. In other words, this power is basically used less and less. The price is also not small. On this basis, Rocky made a vow that once he lost the red eyes, he would lose none forever. No, my such conditions are not much worse than the conditions of Kurapika risking his life. But Rocky did not gamble his life. So, at this point, it is clear why Rocky wants to modify the bloodline power this time. Bloodline ability. Top red eyes, top Kuruta bloodline, brings all-round amplification, and at the same time increases the power of the enhancer's attack by 91%. Nephew. This is the original. Now Rocky is about to start the modification. Bloodline ability. Perfect Eternal Eye. The most perfect of the 7 beauties in the world, brings all-round enhancement, and when it is activated, it will increase the power of all mind systems by 100% in all directions. Looking at the modified information bar, the top level is modified to the perfect level, and the term eternity is added. And the subtle parts are also modified. The modification is not about the number of words, but about the effect. If the effect of the modification is better, it takes more time, and the time required for such a modification is the estimated time to obtain the next modification permission is 36. Chapter 55. The Eternal Perfect Eye. The estimated time for the next modification permission acquisition is 364 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds, 1 year. It takes a whole year to complete such a modification. Rocky exhaled lightly. As expected, it is not an easy modification to complete. But if the modification is really successful, then the successful development of the power of the 6 gods should not be a problem. It doesn't matter how much blood power is consumed. I have the Eternal Perfect Eye, so there is no problem of consumption. The consumption problem does not exist, and it doesn't matter how much is consumed. Confirmed. It's only a year. It's already very good to be able to fully develop the 6 gods within a year. And in the next period of time, there are probably only 2 things to do. The first is to find Lei Jia to confirm the whereabouts of the tribesmen, and the second is to find the lost tribesmen. The first thing should be completed soon, but the second thing may not be so easy. The world is so big, and it is not an easy task to find tribesmen all over the world. Rocky opened his eyes again and took off the contact lenses. The next second, Piro beside him suddenly raised his head and looked at Rocky. Red? A touch of crimson color lit up. That was a beauty that made people unable to move at first sight. The beautiful red, as if the entire starry sky was put into the eyes and then dyed with a faint 940 red. Unconsciously, even Piro was stunned. Rocky, your fiery red eyes are so beautiful. Even Piro, as a fellow tribesman, couldn't help but sigh like this. It is enough to show that although Rocky's fiery red eyes are also fiery red eyes, the same eyes are also different. For a while, even Piro was fascinated. Rocky didn't care too much about Piro's words, but was feeling his own power. The moment the fiery red eyes were opened, all the power of Luoki burst out. No, to be precise, it's not just 100%. It should be said that it's doubled. Rocky was stunned for a moment and clicked on his bloodline information again. The 7 most perfect beauties in the world bring all-round amplification, When activated, it will increase the power of all mind systems by 100% in all directions amplification. I used the word amplification. This feeling Rocky understood. The modification seemed to exceed Rocky's expectations. I was originally just a manipulator, and the ability of the manipulator could be exerted 100%, but if the red eye is turned on, my manipulator's ability should be BHCD. To be precise, it can burst out 200% of the power. This is unexpectedly a surprise. Other systems such as Conjurer, Emitter, Enhancer, which could only burst out 80% of the power, have all been amplified by 100%. In other words, it can burst out 180% of the power. Isn't this doubled? Such an increase in power. Then it is not in vain that I spent a year. Rocky was secretly happy. The modification has been completed. So the next step is to develop the ability. 6 gods. The ice god that is now ready to be developed is the ability of the mind beast. Rocky is going to put it on the manipulator. Although the mind beast developed with the ability of the manipulator should be remote controlled, but that does not mean they cannot be autonomous. Rocky also has the ability of transmuter. And after opening the red eyes, all the systems are increased by 100%. It should not be difficult to give the mind beast the ability to control itself. The reason why transmuter can make the mind beast act on its own is only because the ability of emitter can also exert 80% of its power. And the ability of emitter, the ability of manipulator, can only exert 60%. Naturally, it is not enough to make the mind beast act independently. The reason why Rocky chose manipulator is that he does not intend to control the changes of ice. So he directly uses materialization and materializes the power of ice through the power of manipulator. It is enough to let the mind beast have the power of ice. Carefully recalling the 7 days, the process of ice condensation, and the low temperature of ice. The feeling of being frostbitten under the low temperature. Everything at this moment seems to be some kind of information, which makes Rocky find the feeling of materialization. And it is only this slight feeling, combined with Rocky's constraints and oaths, that the mind begins to respond. Boom! The rapidly condensed air appears around Rocky's body. The first thought ball formed a white light ball. After the light ball condensed into shape, a faint white smoke was emitted. This should be white smoke similar to ice. And Pyro on the side was stunned for a moment, not understanding what Rocky was going to do. But the next second, when the white light ball kept changing and gradually took on a human-like shape, Pyro was stunned. What is this? The white light appeared little by little, but the human-like shape formed by the light. It seemed to have a bit of a mechanical feeling. The hands were very long and fell directly from the shoulders to the ground. The sharp 5 fingers were very slender, and the fingertips were shaped like drills. The forearms were very thick, like a huge iron box, but the upper arms looked very slender, showing the prototype, and the joints were shaped like a sphere. The body looked like a slender robot, with a pair of horns on the head that bent upward at an 85-degree angle. When the white light faded, white smoke was released from all the joints of the body, and the main body looked like light blue ice crystals. 2 meters tall, looks like a giant, but the slender body structure, coupled with a pair of arms that are extremely long, even like 2 spears. You can tell at a glance that it is very lethal. None. Can it still do this? Pierrot was completely confused. Although Rocky had talked about various developments of none before, he had never thought that it could be developed in this way. But Rocky now has no time to answer his question. Continue. The next white ball of light appeared. The same shape, but this time it seems a little different. There's a pair of huge ice crystal wings on the back. Can it fly? The third one, the body has become much more bloated, and it seems that the power has increased, but the speed should be reduced accordingly. Watching the beasts appear one after another, Pierrot fell to the ground and looked at the beasts that had surrounded the city. These dozen beasts released strong cold air, so that the ground condensed ice crystals very quickly under the influence of the cold air. Several of the beasts did not emit white smoke, and it seemed that they had no effect on the surrounding temperature. Pai Luo didn't quite understand what Rocky was doing. Soon Rocky opened his eyes. The general form has been completed, but the ability development is not overnight. and it still needs a little time to polish it. Only then can it reach Rocky's definition of a mind beast. It should be done a month, and then you can go find Leja. Wait, Leja, I will be here soon. Chapter 56. Power of the Ice God 15 Ice Beast Boom. A pile of rocks the size of a truck was instantly blasted apart by a group of thoughts. The broken rocks were shattered into pieces. It continued to scatter around, and frost condensed on the ground. Behind the pile of rocks was an animal that looked like a little mouse. When it saw the white monster in front of it, it seemed to be frightened. It turned into a card with a bang. The card was gently clamped by a blue-white finger that was as dazzling as a diamond. He turned his head and disappeared in a flash with the cold white air. A white smoke passed through the sky. There were even a few snowflakes falling. At this moment, the player who was attacking the car below was stunned. How can it snow in this weather? Hearing this, the companion beside him rolled his eyes and said, "You should have a limit to your outrageous words. It will snow in this hot weather. Look, isn't this a snowflake on my arm?" The other party glanced at his arm, and there was indeed a snowflake, but it was just a snowflake, not snowing. The expressions of the two people instantly became solemn. This abnormal phenomenon must be caused by something. Is it some mysterious monster that has not been discovered yet? On the other side, more than 10 kilometers away, a white figure fell from the sky and handed a card to Rocky. Rocky took the card and put it in the card collection book. Then he looked up at Piro in front of him, trying to conquer the bubble horse in front of him through the mutual transformation of Ju and Chan. But he failed after trying many times. And Rocky shook his head when he saw this, and then went straight forward, easily passed through the red and white bubbles, and grabbed the bubble horse. Bang! Number 585, CE 50 bubble horse. This level of card should be the weakest in the entire greedy island. Rocky sighed helplessly, and Piro on the side was indeed very unwilling. Damn it, I will succeed next time. Was there a next time? Rocky said, "There is no time. It has been more than a month. It's time for us to find our tribesmen." Rocky looked back at the 15 figures standing not far away. 15 mind beasts lined up neatly. 3 ice beasts of control, 6 ice beasts of fighting, and 6 ice beasts of strength. This is Rocky's achievement in this month. Now he can summon all 15 mind beasts. And summoning these mind beasts consumes 5% of Rocky's mind energy. That is to say, when Rocky is controlling the mind beasts, the amount of mind energy he can use is only 50%. However, although summoning mind beasts consumes a lot, it is very cost-effective for Rocky. These mind beasts are very powerful and have the ability to control themselves. They can even understand their intentions to a great extent. Although they are not as good as Kate's turntable, which has its own will, Rocky's mind beasts seem to be infinitely close to having independent consciousness. They just can't speak, but they seem to learn. This makes Rocky very excited. Learning means that as long as they continue to grow, they can understand even extremely complex commands. At the same time, as long as it is within the scope of realization, Rocky's ideas can be accurately transmitted to the minds of these mind beasts at the first time. However, once out of sight, they will execute Rocky's last order. Although they are autonomous, they're not that smart. In terms of attack, they're very powerful. Although they consume half of their thoughts, their combat power is equivalent to 1/3 of Rocky's own, each one. There are 3 main means of attack. The first is the ability to freeze the enemy directly through contact. The frozen part, or the frostbitten part, cannot use thoughts. The second is to use thought bullets to attack, which will only carry a part of the freezing effect. The freezing effect is not strong. At most, it can paralyze the enemy's actions. The third is to spit out cold air to attack. The attack of cold air is only effective within a certain range. In the case of long distance or large range, the power is limited. But if you gather 15 ice beasts, Rocky can even create an ice storm that covers a small town. This is still very good. The above. This is the result of Rocky's 1-month practice. The effect achieved by constantly polishing this ability. Such an effect has already satisfied Rocky, and the size of these ice beasts can also be slightly adjusted and controlled. The smallest size cannot be smaller than Rocky, and the largest size can expand to 3 meters high. At the same time, as Rocky's ability increases in the future, I am afraid that this ability will continue to grow, so it may not be a problem to create ice beasts as tall as mountains. Okay, then where should we go to save our people? Pyro asked, and he was not unhappy because he could not continue to practice. On the contrary, he also believed that saving people was the top priority. A place called Shofurabi. But I don't know if it will work. If not, I'm afraid I'll need to gather some players. Rocky said. Pyro on the side didn't quite understand why it didn't work and needed to gather players. Could it be that Rocky wanted to find someone to help? This is indeed a good idea, but it's probably not very risky to find a stranger. Rocky took out a companion. This was purchased directly from the store with money before. Use companion, Shofurabi. Boom! In an instant, Rocky, Pyro, and Rocky's mind beasts all took off and flew rapidly towards Shofurabi. In the original book, it takes 15 players to use companions to reach Shofurabi to capture 1 ping of coastline. But Rocky can't find so many people, so he tries using his mind beasts first. If it's just the number of people who are companions who are used to judge, instead of 1 player, it would be the best for Rocky. Otherwise, he would have to find players. This is equivalent to sharing information with other players. Some smart guys will inevitably think of something. If this defense game is broken, it will be bad. Rocky also wants to break through. After all, the conditions for getting the 3-long card are still very good. Bang! When Shofu Rabbi landed, Rocky took back the mind beast directly. Pyro on the side looked around. Is this Shofu Rabbi? Rocky's eyes were directly fixed on the direction of a lighthouse. Let's go. Liza and his 14 demons. And now I have 15 mind beasts. In a month, Rocky's Nun Ki increased wildly. In addition to polishing Nun, Rocky's crazy training this month was to improve the Emperor of Ki. With the eternal red eyes, Rocky is not worried about the power of Nun. The only thing he needs to pay attention to is the amount of Nun Ki. So if the Nun Ki is increased, all problems will be solved. Come to the door of the house built under the lighthouse. Rocky knocked on the door gently. Soon the door opened. The prisoners dressed the same as in the original book opened the door. Who are you looking for? Rocky looked at the other party. I'm here to drive you out. The other party was stunned when he heard Rocky's words. Since the day when Greed Island was established, they have been waiting for this sentence. They have been waiting for so long and have never heard it. But they didn't expect to hear it today on Chapter 57. 1 ping coastline. Although what the other party said was correct, the number of people was only 2. This is not okay. According to the instructions, the other party needs to have 15 people. You 2 want to drive us away? Go back. This was said according to the instructions before, to deal with players who come to the door and do not meet the requirements. However, just when this guy wanted to close the door, Rocky suddenly stretched out his hand and blocked the door directly. No matter how hard the other party tried, he couldn't close it. At this moment, this guy was shocked. What kind of power is this? And he didn't even use his breath. How could he have such power? Rocky didn't fall behind in strength training. If he used the door of Killua's house as an example, Rocky estimated that he should be able to push open the 3rd door. Hey, what do you want to do, kid? Rocky didn't care about the other party and broke in violently. The other party was directly knocked aside by Rocky's 957 and fell to the ground. After entering, he found that there was a huge venue inside, and there were many fitness equipment in the center. Rocky didn't care about the others, but they were interested in Rocky, the guy who dared to break in directly. I have been here for so long, and I have never encountered such a situation. At this moment, Rocky's eyes were fixed on a man who was doing bench press, and the barbell looked very heavy. The barbell plates that could bear the weight had bent the bar. The degree of bending even made people feel that the bar might break at any time. Crack! Such a sound would be heard every time he moved. Rocky took a step and walked towards the man with Pyro. However, before Rocky got close, the other party squinted his eyes and smiled. Please wait a moment. There are still 50 to go. Hearing this, Rocky stopped. Pyro looked at the man at this moment and remembered that this voice was the guy who suddenly said something about expulsion and sent himself and Rocky to an inexplicable place. So he was here. But how did Rocky know? I haven't seen Rocky go out to investigate these days, but he can know these things. It's too strong. Boss. Them. Well, don't worry. I'll handle it. Wait till I'm done. 50 bench presses were also finished quickly. Bang! The weight-bearing barbell was directly pushed aside, and the floor on the ground was directly smashed and cracked. The other party slowly got up, took the towel handed over by the person next to him, and simply wiped the sweat off his body. See you again, kid. Liza looked up at Rocky. He knew that this kid might come again, but he didn't expect it to come so soon. Finding the game of Greed Island in the outside world in a short time, and successfully entering it shows that the other party is still very powerful. And compared with the last time, this time I felt Rocky's aura was even stronger. It's still a very obvious improvement, and this speed of improvement is a bit terrifying. Where are my people? Rocky asked directly. Leja glanced at Rocky and said, Sorry, I have no obligation to tell you. Boom! Instantly, Rocky's mind burst out, and the perfect spreading mind energy made the glass of the entire venue creak. The invisible wave continued to spread with Rocky as the center, sweeping wildly around. And the vicious murderers around also retreated with horror on their faces. Originally, he looked like just a brat, but I didn't expect the power of mind to be so terrifying. This is too perverted. This level of ki is much stronger than theirs. Leja also opened his mouth slightly. Although he could roughly feel that Rocky had become stronger before, when Rocky took the initiative to release ki, he accurately felt how strong Rocky was. At this moment, Rocky looked at Leja. Tell me, where are my people? Seeing Rocky's persistence, Leja sighed. Go away. I won't tell you, and not telling you may be a good thing for you. You are talking nonsense. Our people, not telling us is good for us. Pierrot on the side was furious. Did you expel our people too, and tell us where they are? If you hadn't separated us from our people, we wouldn't come to you now, and you are unwilling to tell us after we found you. I'll kill you. Pierrot wanted to do it, but was held back by Rocky. Although he stopped Pierrot, Rocky continued. He is right. You separated us from our tribe, but now you are unwilling to tell us the whereabouts of our tribe. You also said that it is for our own good. Do you think this is reasonable? Liza was silent after thinking for a few seconds. He looked at Rocky. This is Greed Island. Since you came in, you should know where this place is. Use the rules of this place to defeat me. Then I will tell you why. Okay. Rocky nodded, but he did not mean to leave. Just follow your rules. Liza frowned slightly. Although Rocky's anger had been put away, he did not mean to leave. I came here to drive you out. Hearing this, Liza smiled. No, there are not enough people. Not enough people. Rocky smiled. I am enough. No, it must be. Stop talking nonsense. In the end, you'll have to clean up the mess. Rocky suddenly spoke and looked at Liza. Liza and the 14 demons from the name. It seems more like some kind of isn't it none. This sentence made everyone on the other side, including Leja, stunned for a moment. How did this kid notice it? No matter how many people there are, no matter what kind of clearance method, you still have to finish it in the end. As long as I don't get your approval, I'm afraid no one will pass this defense game. In that case, don't let me waste my time. Why don't you test me yourself? At this point, Rocky's mouth corners slightly raised. If you still insist, then I will pass the information here directly to other players. I believe you don't want a group of scum to come to you every day to challenge you. 5.0. To be honest, under normal circumstances, the players who can conquer here should be masters according to the original expectation, and masters can't pass the information so easily. But Rocky happened to meet him. If he really did that, Leja would have no leisure days in the future, and it would only be a matter of time before Greed Island was breached, and his role in controlling the passers would be gone. Liza opened his eyes and looked at Rocky. Very good. You're a very smart kid, but I asked you to find more people just now, not to delay time or to perfunctorily deal with you, but for your own good. Didn't you say you would follow my rules? Then come on. Buzz. Purple mind energy burst out. White light fell to the ground. Then one figure after another appeared. Chapter 58, Dodgeball Battle, First Ball. Since you want to challenge now, I can agree, but you have to think about it. This is the 88 game. If you win, I can tell you the whereabouts of your people. If you lose and want to come next time, you don't need to follow the rules. Hearing this, Rocky nodded in agreement without hesitation. No problem. Seeing that Rocky still insisted, Leja didn't say much. He waved his hand and asked his men to start moving the fitness equipment around the venue. Then the dodgeball battle venue was drawn in the center of the venue. I am the referee in charge of this game, number 0. Next, I will explain the rules of the game to everyone. The rules of the dodgeball battle are very simple. In fact, the same as the rules of playing sandbags when we were young. It's just that it has become a dodgeball battle here, and the design of the outside and inside the field has been added. There's also a sandbag game that I played when I was a child. As long as you catch the sandbag, you have a chance to revive your companion. The rules of the game are not difficult for Rocky, and he can understand it easily. However, Piero was a little confused when he heard the rules of the game, and it seemed difficult to understand. Are you sure there are only 2 of you playing with me? Hearing this, Rocky glanced at Piero, then turned to look at Leja. I am enough. Leja held the ball and looked down at the kid in front of him. The kid in front of him was very confident, strong, and talented. But it was not enough to challenge him now. The prisoners watching the game also showed their interest in watching the show. This kid is very arrogant. It's good enough to find this place, and you want to defeat Leja. It's impossible. Although the energy was very strong before, it's not good enough compared to Leja. Rocky had taken off his outer clothes and threw them to Piero. After taking Rocky's coat, Piero glanced at him and asked Rocky, "Do you really not need me to help?" Rocky rolled his eyes when he heard this. Where did this guy get the confidence to help? It's fine if he doesn't cause trouble for Rocky, but he can't even help him. You don't need to watch from the side. Piero nodded when he heard this. To be honest, he also wanted to try. But it seems that the other party is not weak. He knows his own strength well. It's not that he doesn't want to mess up. Since you are alone, let's start. Liza didn't want to say anything more. Rocky's talent is very good. He was able to return to Greedy Island in a short time, and he also found this place quickly, which is enough to show his talent and strength. So Liza wanted Rocky to go back and hone his strength on Greedy Island. After all, no matter how you look at it, Rocky has this level of strength at this age, which is also a rough diamond. If he is polished well, he will definitely become a powerful nun in the future. Although Leja had no intention of accepting disciples or teaching others, it was not bad to give some guidance to a talented child. Let's kick off. Rocky looked at Leja, who waved his hand to signal number 0 to come to the court and grab the ball in the same way as basketball. However, as the ball was thrown high up, the game officially began. But now Rocky was the only one on the court, while Leja had 7 mind beasts. Since Rocky was alone, there was no way to grab the ball. The ball fell into Leja's hands, but Leja threw the ball to the mind beast next to him the next second, and the mind beast threw it directly. Passed it to Rocky. Rocky caught the ball and glanced at Leja. You're still a kid, so I'll give you the chance to attack first. This is underestimating himself. Do you think of yourself as a newcomer? This guy doesn't know how much effort he has put in to stand here today. Spend all his time training. Okay, Rocky just said one word softly, holding the ball with one hand. Powerful thoughts burst out instantly, and the energy was transmitted to the ball like a burning flame. In just a short second, the thoughts were gathered. The ball burst into a dazzling light blue light. Rocky's mouth corners slightly raised. Hey, this kid has a lot of energy, and the control is amazing. The gathering of thoughts is so simple and fast. No less than Leja. What level is this? It's the level of a first-class nun or a top nun. How old is this kid? The prisoners looked at each other one by one, even the arrogant Popopo in the original book. They all took a step back silently. Just by seeing Rocky's thoughts, he had extinguished the idea of provoking Rocky. This kind of monster. He is not someone he can face. Wow, very smooth power. Boom. The moment Leja finished speaking, Rocky leaned back and threw the ball in his hand directly without using the volleyball spike technique. The moment the ball left Rocky's palm, ripples spread in the air. The speed reached instantly was probably not much different from a pistol bullet. Pang! The volleyball with a lot of mind flew directly past Leja, and a strong wind blew Leja's hair away. However, Rocky's target was not him, but the mind beast behind him. Bang! It hit the target with a violent roar. Then the ball flew high and rushed directly to the ceiling. It even smashed a hole in the ceiling. This is exactly the same as the first time Lei Jia attacked Gon in the original book. The mind beast hit by Rocky did not explode, but flew out of the court directly. It hit the wall at the edge of the stadium fiercely. Rocky narrowed his eyes. Very good. It is not dead yet. This mind beast has a strong ability to resist attacks. Or in other words, when these mind beasts are attacked, Lei Jia's mind will only be reduced instead of disappearing directly. While Rocky was thinking, the prisoners on the side took a breath of cold air. Just such a casual ball. It has such power. It is Lei Jia's mind beast. And after hitting the mind beast, the ball can also directly bounce to the ceiling and smash a hole. If this power hits them, they will probably die directly. Are the kids now so fierce? This kid is only about 8 or 9 years old. While I was 8 or 9 years old, I was still playing in the mud, and this kid was already very fierce. Monster. Lei Jia opened his eyes slightly, but still couldn't see his eyes. With this power, it seems that you're also a transmuter. Hearing Lei Jia's words, the other prisoners were stunned. That's right, the power of this guy's mind did not decrease after he released it, which means that the other party is either a transmuter or an enhancer or emitter. But with that kind of power, it is very likely that he is a transmuter. Kachaka. Twisting his neck and shoulders slightly, Rocky looked at Lei Jia expressionlessly. Guess it yourself. Chapter 59. Liza and his 14 demons looking at Rocky. Lei Jia was not angry at all, but smiled. I didn't expect Rocky's strength to reach this level. It seems that the previous key burst was not full strength. If so, it will be interesting. This game will definitely be interesting. Lei Jia thought. At this time, no. Zero suddenly said, based on the possible landing point of the ball, it is classified as Lei Jia's infield ball. Player number 3 is eliminated. Please move to the outfield. Lei Jia took the ball. He glanced at Rocky. Are you ready? Rocky glanced at Lei Jia lightly, without any preparation. He just stood there and looked at the other party calmly. The ball just now. Rocky is quite sure that he is definitely stronger than Lei Jia in terms of ki now. Of course, this may be because Lei Jia's ki is also responsible for the operation of the transmuter of the entire Greed Island. So the ki he can mobilize himself should not be too much. Providing ki for the operation of the entire game will definitely not let Lei Jia be affected at all. So Rocky guessed that Lei Jia probably had about 50% of his ki, which was needed to maintain the operation of the entire defense game. And in this case, it would not be difficult for Rocky to catch Lei Jia's attack. Besides, even if there were some errors in the guess or some other mistakes, Rocky could also enhance it by turning on the fiery red eyes, and generally speaking, he would never be weaker than Lei Jia. So Rocky didn't need to do any preparation at all. Come on. Looking at Rocky's arrogant look, Lei Jia opened his eyes and looked at Rocky. It's not a good habit to underestimate the enemy. Kid. The ball in Lei Jia's hand also instantly gathered a lot of ki, and the speed of the flow and gathering of the mind ki was exactly the same as Rocky's just now. The same powerful mind ki wave spread, and the air also flowed at a high speed. A faint wind began to form around the ball in Lei Jia's hand. Liza took a step forward, and at the same time, he grabbed the ball in his hand fiercely, his eyes locked on Rocky. Here it comes. Boy, boom. The moment the ball was out his hand, the speed of the explosion was a few points faster than Rocky's just now. This does not mean that Liza has more and stronger energy, but that he is more experienced and skilled in this kind of throwing attack. He can hit all the power into one day and turn it into the power of throwing the ball. However, Rocky is much worse in terms of skills, which leads to a lot of power wasted. But, bang, standing in place, Rocky raised his right arm and caught Liza's ball with one hand. The powerful collision of thoughts caused a terrifying roar. The ball even produced white smoke due to the high-speed rotation. Seeing this scene, Pyro on the side excitedly made the yes action, and the prisoners around looked at each other. Hey, are you kidding? Liza should have been serious about the ball just now. But unexpectedly, what kind of power is it to be caught by such a little kid with one hand? There are only two possibilities to do this. First, Rocky's energy is far greater than Liza's, and second, Rocky is an enhancer. No matter which one it is, it's unlikely. The previous attack shows that the possibility that Rocky is a transmuter is more than 80%. Secondly, Rocky's mental energy can't be more terrifying than Leja. This kid is only about 7 or 8 years old. How can his mental energy be more terrifying than Leja? Now Rocky can finally feel what top talent and top physique are. The combination of the two is a rapid improvement. My mental energy is definitely not inferior to Leja. Just now, just in case, Rocky opened the red eyes, but he didn't expect that the ball fell into his hand without much feeling. It seems that there is no problem at all even if the red eyes are not activated. A trace of cold sweat appeared on Leja's forehead. What is going on with this little monster? He easily caught his attack with one hand, and even his footsteps were very casual. This kind of footsteps has no support at all. In theory, even if he can catch the person, he'll be knocked out. But Rocky just stood still. This means that the power disappeared at the moment of collision. There is no impact force at all, which means that the opponent can catch a stronger attack. That's not good. It's my turn. Rocky smiled. He raised his hand and raised the volleyball in his hand high. Crazy gathering. Buzz. The ground shook suddenly, and a light blue mind wave released from Rocky's body basically occupied half of the inner court instantly. Seeing Rocky's mind burst so amazingly, Leja's eyes could not be smaller now. Pervert. Is this kid a monster? Just like that guy Gene, he's just like an animal. Can this kind of mental energy really be controlled at this age? However, such a huge amount of mental energy was gathered into the volleyball in an instant. At this moment, the volleyball burst into a blue light, like a dazzling blue gem. The volleyball was thrown high by Rocky. Seeing this action, Ishifuz's eyes shrank slightly. Not good. This is a smash. This kid's attack is serious this time. The previous attack was just a test. I didn't expect that the previous level was not considered full strength interesting. Mr. Gene, it's just as you said, there are still many monsters in this world with a strong mental energy fluctuation bursting out all over his body. Leja now has no idea of guiding the younger generation of kids. The only thing he has is the seriousness of facing opponents of the same level. Don't you plan to hide? You might die. Rocky jumped up and saw Leja's action and spoke. Leja smiled and said, "Hide? Are you kidding me? Is there any difference between hiding and admitting defeat?" "That's true," Rocky smiled. Crack! A powerful smash in the air. The volleyball flashed with dazzling light and fell like a blue meteorite. At this moment, the two mind beasts beside Leja moved. The two of them appeared on both sides of Leja, one on the left and one on the right, and then used the action of patting the ball, and the 6 hands of 3 people all hit Rocky's ball. At the same time, the two mind beasts actually, wow, how good, surged with the light of mind energy. Liza and his 14 demons. These mind beasts are not just as simple as passing the ball. As Leja's mind beasts, they can also pass on Leja's mind. Divide all your mind into 3 parts and unload the force of Rocky's smash from 3 different directions and angles. Finally, Leja himself will catch the ball. The moment the mind of the two mind beasts is exhausted, they retreat directly. After 2 attempts, the ball, which was emitting dazzling light, had dimmed a lot. Crackling. Zizzizizi. The veins on Leja's hands bulged, and he frantically withstood the impact of the ball. 2 streams of mind rubbed against his arms frantically. It lasted for 5 seconds before the light blue mind light dissipated. The ball bounced into the air and was caught by Fu Jia's mind beast. In this way, the 2 mind beasts that caught the ball earlier and Leja were not eliminated. Beautiful catch. Rocky praised. Chapter 60, you're not the only one who can use mind beasts. Although he caught the ball, it was not easy. Leja looked at his slightly red arm. There were some scratches on the part that collided with the ball just now, and he gathered a lot of thoughts to protect his arm. He was injured in this situation, which means that Rocky's thoughts are even more powerful than his own. This guy is 100% a transmuter. Boy, what's your name? Suddenly, Leja stood up, grabbed the ball, and walked forward slowly. Rocky. Leja stopped Rocky. As he casually threw the ball to the number 3 thought beast, Leja's eyes were fixed on Rocky's figure. Very good. I remember your name, and now I won't treat you as a rookie. I will use all my strength to fight you. Be careful. Although Rocky seems to be more powerful in thoughts, Leja is more confident in the dodgeball battle, even if the opponent is stronger than him. He believes that he can win. Absolutely no problem. Seeing Leja's serious expression, Rocky cheered up. Then come on. I never thought of holding back on you. Ever since Leja used expulsion to separate him from his tribe, Rocky was very angry. Of course, the other party has his own responsibilities, but it has nothing to do with Rocky. He will still be angry when he should be angry. Well, no need to hold back 327. We will all go all out, and you can get the news you want if you win. The hand of a number 3 Mind Beast suddenly flashed with purple Mind Key light. The next second, the ball was quickly passed to the number 7 Mind Beast, and Mind Key light also appeared on the arm of the number 7 Mind Beast. The ball was passed again, and this time the speed and power increased even more. In a few seconds, the continuous pass was passed almost nearly 100 times, and each of these passes would increase the mind on the ball. Rocky speculated that this was probably one of Leja's abilities. Now it is the ball that is passed, and mind is attached to the ball, but in the battle, it is probably the mind bullet that is transmitted. The mind on the ball is getting stronger and stronger. Just passing the ball made the whole stadium suddenly vibrate, and the windows kept shaking. The terrifying vibration directly shattered the glass windows. The next second, the windows shattered. The sudden sound made the prisoners stunned for a moment, feeling the strong wind and the more terrifying thoughts. Everyone held their breath and stared at Leja. This was the real power of this man. He had always been guarding them, and before, Popo wanted to resist him, which was simply seeking death. At the moment when Rocky's eyes flashed slightly, Leja suddenly moved. He had never passed the ball to him, but this sudden pass, Leja had already made preparations. Similar to the action of a golf swing, he clenched his fists and hit the ball directly in an instant. Crack! The roar sounded, and the purple thoughts suddenly burst out, like the sudden burst of supernova flames, and the thoughts spread rapidly to the surroundings. It was like countless purple blades spinning at high speed on the surface of the sphere, shooting rapidly in the direction of Rocky. Swish! Instantly, leaving a purple trail in the air. You can't even see the trace of the ball. The speed and power are perfect. Even Leja himself is very satisfied with his own ball. This is a perfect shot. Will Rocky dodge it? Liza's mouth corners slightly raised. No, he can't dodge it. This kid has never thought of retreating since the beginning of the battle. So, he will never dodge it. If he doesn't dodge, then this kid will definitely not be able to block this attack. From Rocky's point of view, the worst result is probably serious injury. As for death, it shouldn't happen as long as this kid doesn't do anything stupid. Leja is now looking forward to Rocky's response. At this moment, Rocky took a horse stance for the first time and put his hands in a ball-passing posture. Seeing this action, Leja's smile suddenly paused, and then the corners of his mouth rose wildly, revealing a very exaggerated arc. Want to catch it? Boy, how much you look down on me. Bang! The ball hit Rocky's hand hard, and the gathered thoughts and Leja's thoughts collided wildly. In an instant, white light shone throughout the venue. All the prisoners opened their mouths and looked at Rocky in horror. So this guy actually intends to catch this ball? Is he looking for death? It's impossible to catch it. Didn't he see that terrifying thought? This time he's dead. Bang! The impact continued. Rocky gritted his teeth, and his thoughts burst out wildly. Although his thoughts were more than Leja's, and the power of his thoughts was also stronger than Leja's, but this kind of catch. The opponent's thoughts will cause multiple damages due to the superposition of speed and power. So it is impossible to simply judge whether it can be caught based on the amount of thought energy and the power. Bang! Another impact sound erupted, and this time Rocky's body flew backwards instantly. Still failed to catch it. But Rocky turned 360 degrees in the air, unloaded all the power, and threw the ball high. Caught it, Pyro said excitedly. At this time, he suddenly found that the place where Rocky fell was outside the court. If Rocky fell outside the court, he would lose. Even if he caught the ball, it would not count. The ball in the air fell outside the court, which was bad. At this moment, Leja was looking at the ball in the air. It was just thrown high to a position of 5 or 6 meters. He tried his best to hit it, but this kid could make such a perfect response. Although the rules showed that this kid was bound to lose, he was not defeated in terms of hard power. Instead, he seemed to have taken advantage of the rules. Amazing. He can release the force like this. And with such a strong force, the ball didn't even hit the ceiling. But he still lost. If this kid finds a few people to challenge him next time, he might really be able to defeat Shuja. How old is this kid? He is so strong at this age. Has the outside world changed so much? At this time, even Leja sighed, "What a pity. What a pity." Rocky in the air looked at the ball less than 3 meters away from him. Under normal circumstances, there was no way to catch it. But who said it was a pity? Suddenly, a powerful aura burst out from Rocky's body, and at the same time, a blue light flashed and a white cold air emerged. The temperature of the entire venue surrounding Rocky suddenly dropped sharply. A pair of white ice crystal wings slowly spread behind Rocky. Wings? Liza was stunned when he saw the wings appear, and the other prisoners were also stunned. However, the more shocking scene was below. 1, 2, 3. A full 7.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.